A warm welcome on behalf here of the organization team, of the whole EIT and all the colleagues. So let's rock this day together. And because we want to celebrate today. We want to celebrate a couple of achievements, actually, but one achievement is especially, and we want to come together to try to aim to the moon. Because the EIT Culture and the Creativity is joining the family of the EIT knowledge and innovation communities to bring the cultural and creative sectors and industries, you know it, CCSI, to the largest innovation network in Europe. And that's a reason to celebrate, right? So if you're ready to celebrate, please an applause for the EIT Culture and Creativity. Let's get started, the good energy today. Because, hey, it's a very long effort. It's decades-long efforts of groups in the policy, in the industrial, in the social, in the cultural realms who have been really working on this for the recognition of the cultural and the creative sectors and industry in the economic, but also social and innovative fields as a powerhouse in Europe. So that's what we want to celebrate today, and it's an opportunity for us all together today to gather around a big goal, establish a long-term and ambition guideline, so to speak, for the competitiveness of the European cultural and creative sectors and industries, because they have a critical role in the future in Europe and beyond. We have together with us today relevant representatives from the European Parliament, from the European Commission, from the member states, from the regions, from the cities. It's great you have been traveling, and I saw a couple of them in my plane last night. So hello, if you're there today. But all of us here, we are all representatives of the industry, of the arts, of the cultural heritage, from academia, from research, and also innovation and investment organization. Yeah, we're going to talk about money too. So, what we're going to have today, very briefly, for you to know, we're going to have some panels. We're going to have lightning talks. There will be 2 panels in the morning. We're going to have then a lunch break at 1:15 until 2:25. And I insist, I'm the CTO, Chief Time Officer. I'm a bit fussy with time, you will notice. I'm very sorry about that. So I excuse myself in front of all the speakers. I'm going to brutalize yourself a little bit today because we want to finish on time. So we will have this lunch break, and then we're going to go with love to the moon and back with the moon on a stick with a 3rd panel in the middle, and then we will wrap it up today. Hopefully, I mean, if you're good, if you help me, we should be ready by 5:15. So what I want to mention, a couple of housekeeping rules here, because we are not alone. We have the people online. Hello, everyone online. Great to see you with us. You cannot see the star, but, well, you are for us. You are in the stars, so that's already good. You're going to be part of this. It's going to be a super interactive event for 2 reasons. First, the online people are there. You can be with us. You go to Slido. When you go to your platform on the right, you have the Q&A, you have 2 tabs, right? Because you have the Q&A tab and you have the poll tab. You can be with us with the Q&A, with the poll. For you here, of course, we are interactive. We can do it old school with raise your hands, but obviously we have also everywhere on the walls. Look at this. This is like a virtual immersive space here with the QR code for the Slido poll, and then you can, in case you're shy and you want to be modern, you do it with the Slido thing, otherwise you raise your hand, and I will see you for sure later for the Q&A in the panels. Obviously, no need to tell you, we want respect in the chat and in the Q&A and in the polls and everything, so let's do this. And yeah, I think, did I forget anything? No, I think everybody is all set to go. 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, good. Okay, so let's go. We're going to have, first of all, a series of, 3, 2, 1, 3 talks to start the day. And I have the huge pleasure to introduce our first speaker, or the 3rd one, 2, and then 1, or 1, because everybody is priority number 1 here today to start the day for sure. And it is a great honor for me to introduce you to the first speaker. It is Professor Nektarios Tavernarakis, the chair of the EIT Governing Board. Where are you? Oh, okay, you come from here. I thought you come from backstage. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Europe continues to be a source of inspiration and creativity that captivates the whole world. Our European cultural legacy spans millennia, as you know, with roots traced back to ancient civilizations such as the Greeks and the Romans. And as a Greek myself, this incredible area of activity is really truly very close to my heart. From the most ancient literature, music, theater, and architecture, to the more modern filmmaking, fashion, and video game industry, Europe has been and keeps emerging as a hotspot of creative entrepreneurship, nurturing vibrant startup ecosystems and innovative ventures. The rapidly evolving landscape of creative industries has witnessed the emergence of groundbreaking platforms and technologies that redefine the way we engage with literature, art, and design. Technological giants are revolutionizing the creative process by developing cutting-edge tools and services that empower creative people to express their vision in unprecedented versatility, reimagining the whole process of artistic expression. As you may have noticed, I refer to culture and creativity, but also to innovation and scientific achievement. Because just like artists, scientists employ experimentation, observation, and craftsmanship to bring together ideas to life, to discover new perspectives, and push boundaries. Indeed, it is not a coincidence that the word technology contains the Greek word techni, which means art and craftsmanship. And here we are today welcoming the 9th Knowledge and Innovation Community of the EIT, focusing indeed on culture and creativity. The EIT was created initially to tackle Europe's structural weakness in innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as to address some of our continent's greatest challenges. To make this happen, we have developed an innovation model bringing together the key ingredients: education, research, and entrepreneurship. This is what makes the EIT unique. Later on, you will also hear from the EIT director, Martin Kern, who will describe our model to you in more detail. But to put it briefly now, we fully integrate the entire innovation value chain across Europe by connecting innovators and providing them with the long-term support they need. We also encourage cross-sectoral cooperation, and in doing so, we bridge Europe's innovation gap and encourage synergies within the European innovation landscape. Our approach brings concrete solutions to European citizens and also allows for financial return from successful innovations. Indeed, this financial sustainability is one of the core principles of the EIT's KICS. Our dynamic and pan-European partnerships that make up the EIT innovation communities are active, as you know, in the areas of climate change, green energy, digital transition, food, health, raw materials, urban mobility, manufacturing. And now, here we are celebrating the 9th EIT KIC, focusing on the cultural and creative sectors. The creative and cultural richness of Europe and its undoubted value to the lives of the EU citizens has been recognized by the European Union, which strategically supports and promotes the cultural and creativity industries across its member states and beyond. The EU has recognized the significance and the contribution of these sectors, not only to the European social fabric, but also to our economy, taking various initiatives to foster the growth and sustainability of those sectors, because those sectors themselves are a source of growth and sustainability for Europe. A number of key initiatives come to mind: the Creative Europe program, the European Capital of Culture, and the copyright protection measures. The EU has demonstrated through these initiatives its commitment to nurturing and promoting the culture and creative industries. At the EIT, we went a step further, appreciating the importance of entrepreneurship in the culture and creativity sectors as a driver of economic growth and technological innovation. The EIT has set up the Culture and Creativity KIC, which is the epitome of our dedication to providing support and resources for creative startups and entrepreneurs. By bringing together individuals and organizations from diverse backgrounds, such as art, design, technology, and business, and by promoting cross-sectional collaborations, the EIT Culture and Creativity will lead the development of innovative solutions, products, and services. It will also have a pivotal role in nurturing and supporting startups and entrepreneurs within the cultural and creative sectors. Through its funding and its access to networks, or to put it better, access to the entire EIT innovation ecosystem, the biggest actually in the EU, the KIC will provide valuable support to emerging talents and innovative ventures. And this support will be instrumental towards encouraging the spirit of entrepreneurship, risk-taking, and success within the cultural and creative industries. The EIT Culture and Creativity KIC is here to foster and further mobilize these sectors. We are certain that its goals and initiatives will enable creative people to access markets, reach wider audiences, and engage in international collaborations, while at the same time contributing to and inspiring the work of already existing innovation communities in an unprecedented and stimulating way. All of us at the EIT board are looking forward to the development of the strategic agenda of the new EIT Culture and Creativity KIC. It is actually imperative to position yourselves strategically in the market and craft clear messages that resonate with target audiences across Europe and the whole world. The thematic scope of the new KIC must align with the EIT innovation framework and further support the overall objectives of the EIT. To achieve our common goals, the KIC must be market-oriented, driven by a strong focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. In addition, it is essential, of course, to align strategic objectives with the EU overall policy priorities. By embedding the KIC strategy within the general policy landscape in Europe, we can maximize our impact and leverage valuable synergies. And as we are now moving forward, operational readiness of the new KIC within 2023 becomes really paramount. We must establish the necessary structures and systems that will enable you to effectively implement the strategic agenda starting in 2024. Together, we now have the opportunity to shape the future of the cultural and creative industries, expediting innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic growth. Let us seize this moment to collaborate, exchange ideas, and build a strong foundation for the success of the EIT Culture and Creativity KIC. Now, as a scientist and an advocate of philosophy, I tend to talk a lot to explain concepts and ideas, but today I will not be doing that. Instead, I want to close by expressing my sincere gratitude to the organizers of this remarkable event. Your dedication made this gathering possible, and I could not think of a better platform for artists, innovators, and visionaries to come together and celebrate the richness and the potential of the European culture and creative sectors and industries. I also want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to each and every one of you in the audience here with us today, but also online, and I encourage you during this inspiring day to make connections, share ideas, and discuss plans that will spark and fuel your creative endeavors. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the rest of the exciting event.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful introductory talk. This is wonderful. I'm going to introduce the second speaker in a second, but I wanted to mention someone I forgot. You probably did not notice her. She's quite in the corner of the room. It is Blanche, and she's a graphic recorder, and she's making wonderful drawings of what's going to happen today. So if you want to have a look, she will be there. Thank you for being with us. This is also very creative and a great adding to this event. Thank you. But now, let's continue, because we're a bit short on time. And she influences the strategic directions of science, research, innovation at the highest level in the European Commission. And she's a chairwoman of the Supervisory Board of the EIT Culture and Creativity. This is Dr. Daria Tataj. Thank you. The stage is yours, Daria.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If you can, please look at the person who's sitting to the right of you. And now to the left. Now, the EIT Kicks, it's all about bringing together our networking capacity so that we can connect with different people. But the condition for connecting is trust. And we, as the newest kick, we joined the family, but at the same time, we want to reinvent what is trust in the age of such a tremendous disruption brought in by democratizing AI. We cannot any longer see that what we see is true or not. The only way we can distinguish is by having a trusted community as the EIT Kicks, where we know people, we know institutions, and we trust them. I was at the birth of the EIT back in 2008, setting up the Impact Investment Institute and launching the first 3 kicks. And I'm truly honored to chair the board, and I very much welcome my colleagues on behalf of whom I speak. So if I may say, first, my congratulations to all the partners and all the people behind the kick, and all the people who were supporters from the very early days. There were many of them to point to, but let me not put to the names, because what we should look forward is to having our future together. Now, the EIT Culture and Creativity is special in 2 ways. One, it's that education that we bring in and the talent dimension that we bring in is absolutely critical in the current moment. But at the same time, other kicks are doing this as well. But we bring the creative component that is unique and the only really diagnostic what the future will bring. What is happening in the avant-garde labs of designers, architects, artists, digital artists will come reality sooner or later. This is our barometer, and this is how we can bring value to our organizations and to others. But for this, we need leadership. For this, we need people from the younger generation who can communicate and who can collaborate with many other disciplines, other generations, other cultures. So I believe that while you are in this room, you're asking probably yourselves, what is it for me? What is it for my organization? And in a way, the beauty of a knowledge and innovation community like our community is that we can understand, because of this trust, what we want and how we can help each other succeed in what we want. And there's very different value proposition for big and small companies, for entrepreneurial talent that can find ways to accelerate their inventions to the market, for the big industry to learn from what's upcoming from those smart entrepreneurs, for the universities to really enrich the research agenda, understanding what the society wants, what the society needs. So there's something in it for everyone, but what we need is the trust, that we can share information, that it will be protected, that we can entrust our ideas, that we can build together something meaningful. Now, we have created a framework for the success, and I'm sure, I have no doubt that we will succeed. And we have so far, over the last months, since winning the bid, set up the legal structures of the EIT Culture and Creativity, including the association and the limited liability company. We have created the operational framework. We have set up the first calls, and we have initiated a number of subgroups, topics, to bring everyone on board. This engagement is extremely important for us. And I want to congratulate us all, but especially the person who is the doer and the connector and really the big-time networker whom we trust, and we hope that all of you will keep up this trust. And my congratulations to Bernd Fesel for switching the role from being an interim CEO to being the permanent CEO. So my congratulations to Bernd. encourage all of us to look again to the right and to the left and say, I trust you, and I hope that you trust me.
Great.
I'm saying this because there are big challenges ahead of us, and there's no one single person, not single organization, who can bring those challenges forward. In the Dutch culture, which I learned, the challenge has a different connotation than in other cultures. A challenge means not a difficulty, an exciting journey ahead. So let's embark on this journey together. Thank you very much for being at this Moonshot event.
Thank you. Thank you, Daria. Great, this is fantastic. I told you we were celebrating today, right? There is more to come. So now he's considered as one of the leading figures in the design and also the implementation of the European Framework Program for Research and Innovation. So it's my great pleasure to welcome on stage Dr. Christian Ehler, member of the European Parliament. Please, Christian, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from a politician, you expect that he starts with saying, "Look at me." But that's exactly the reason why I would like to start my speech a little bit, although that might be simply formal and a little bit European, but I would like to thank some individual persons. When we started that endeavor almost 10 years ago in the European Parliament, where a small group of people, me and the most unlikely partner, Pervenche Berès, a wonderful left-wing French socialist, started that endeavor to look a little bit closer from the parliaments, from one of the institutions' perspective of what is creativity in Europe. It had been saluted by the treaties a little bit. It's the only place in the treaties where the treaties become a little bit poetic. But we looked to the economy, we looked to the innovation, we talked to people, we invited, we learned what you wouldn't expect from politicians or institutions. And I think along the way, which led us today to the fact that I'm coming to also the other activities surrounding and somehow accompanying today's event, it had been personalities, it had been Pervenche Berès. I would like to thank perhaps someone unknown today, Adrien Kirali, the cabinet member of Commissioner Navracsics, who had been, as one of the last attempts, placed that. And it's individual persons needed for something like that, which had been considered in the very beginning, let's be honest, as an obscure undertaking. I would like to thank Carlos Moedas, who took that up. I mean, to risk, to embed that in research politics that had been a political list, and we needed people with political capital. I would like to thank also Commissioner Gabriel to take that forward, to fight for that, to fight for the budget. I mean, she left us, but I think I would like to highlight that. I'd like to thank Manuel Heiter, formerly during the Portuguese presidency representing the Research Council. I looked in the faces, being the Parliament's rapporteur, bringing forward the budget, the proposal of having a kick in the faces of the European Research Minister, and there's a wall of disbelief. And I saw one face, and it was Manuel Heiter's face saying, let's think about that, let's talk about that, whether we really consider to integrate that in a research program to create something new like a kick on culture and creativity. So in a way, it's a moment to look also back and to thank people who had been individually contributing to that. To keep it short, also you don't expect that from politicians and lecturing Germans, I would like to look a little bit ahead. So today I would like to highlight 4 crucial points that emphasize the significance of the CCIs in Europe's future and how the KIC will contribute to this. Firstly, let us reflect. We had been reflecting a little bit of the past, but I think related to the history of the political history of putting creativity, the CCIs, and deliberately also creativity and understanding the delicate balance between creativity and the economic part of creativity. I think that had been an important step, and it had been something which is now getting more and more in the center of considerations in Europe. In 2016, we wrote a parliamentary report on that, and that led later on to the acknowledgement of a fully fledged economic sectors in Europe. You might have seen that one of the 17 sectors Commissioner Breton had been announcing, ecosystems called, which is really important. It's not a sector, it's an ecosystem, is considered to be the creative industry. So it centered an issue which started to be something fairly vague, obscure, hard to describe, to the center of economic policy. I think that it is now clear in terms of figures that the CCIs is the unique selling point for the European economy. It is one of the fastest growing sectors. And I think this political understanding and economical understanding had been matured significantly, not just in politics, also in the sector itself, which had been considering themselves as fairly diverse and not really looking about their own strengths, more relating to the diversity. So I think with a dedicated research budget of 2.4 billion euros under Horizon Europe, which is not just the biggest research program, it's the biggest dedicated program in research programs in the world for creativity. It's unique. It's not even existing in the United States. It's not existing in China. This makes Europe unique, that we put that in the center of innovation policy in Europe. Furthermore, and that might be fairly technical, but it had been important, we now have a set of statistics which hadn't been existing. That was one of the big problems. It was the white elephant in the European economy, actually. So we have set out of statistics to measure the economic relevance of the CCC. The Parliament, me being the rapporteur, saying that for a moment, we have now a statistic and presented an updated economic statistic on CCIs, which, for example, showed that before the COVID pandemic, the CCI export to non-European countries was worth around 25 billion euros. We hadn't that figures, but now we know the importance of that. We don't have to claim it. It's there, and we have a statistic way to gather data. So in other words, the CCL are well on their way to become a recognized sector of our economy. Secondly, the CCIs are instrumental in optimizing Europe's innovation potential. CCI poses the ability to bridge the gap between knowledge and understanding, facilitating behavioral change and internalizing the ecological transition. I think it's the centerpiece whether we're going to be successful in this transformation, not just about our economy, the transformation of our societies. They inspire citizens on a profound level, fostering a cultural shift which is essential for progress. This is exactly what Europe misses at the moment. The infamous European paradox still exists. Europe is good at science and technology, but bad at bringing it to the market. And we had been looking just from an economic point of that, but creativity is the big transformation force into societies. CCIs are a crucial piece of the puzzle of addressing this paradox. If you bring scientists, innovators, and CCAs together, we open up a whole new dimension of European innovation. Moreover, CCI serves as the unique selling point for the European economy. Europe's cultural depth and diverse are completely unique. I mean, we are also always looking what is unique about Europe, also in terms of the global discussion. And this is unique, and it's for the first time appreciated, understood, but now, in a way, funded and driven forward. I think It's an economic advantage of Europe, and the economic advantage we need to recognize and cherish. And that is why it's essential for Europe to ensure, on the one hand, that our innovators tap into the ability of our CCIs to connect people, and on the other hand, that its CCIs are at the forefront of innovation in their field. Thirdly, CCIs will play a crucial role in Europe's green transition. I've been referring to that. Without creativity, the envisioned decarbonization way of living would remain a dystopia. We are driving our societies out of fear, but we should drive out of our societies by an utopia. And who is the one creating that? We need creativity to come out of the limits of be dreaming out of fear and coming to the cherish that we are driving this transformation out of an utopia, something positive for consumers, but also for the general society. So that is why the CCIs will play also a pivotal role in the new European Bauhaus movement. This creative and interdisciplinary initiative is all about translating the European Green Deal into tangible, positive, and inclusive experiences. This requires a connection between people, policy, and technological development that only CCIs can create. The new European Bauhaus is an initiative of which Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen, which underlies that the importance of CCIs had been recognized throughout all layers of the European policy making. Lastly, and I see the sign, I want to point out that the launch of the EIT kick on creative industry today marks a pivotal moment in strengthening the European CCIs. This kick brings the sector even more independent funding, a platform for stakeholders to collaborate, and a strong voice in the European innovation policy. The EIT will keep and help translate innovative and cross-cutting ideas into policies and new initiatives, enabling CCIs to reach their full potential. It adds another essential piece of the puzzle, empowering the CCIs to thrive and flourish. And let me say in the end, it might be a little bit funny, and I had been saying that before. I'm over 50, a Christian Democrat from Germany. What I would like to express in the name of the Parliament is not just the technicalities why we are doing that, the potential, the political rationale. There is something far beyond. And the interest and the backing you have from that institution across all parties, against all budget fights, the continuous backing you will have is that we also love what you're doing. It is simply amazing. And we think it's at the core what makes Europe and is different in Europe compared to other continents. So let me say that in the end, I thank President Kern that we had been encouraging to have that as the 9 kick. We hope that you back up the kick in the way we need it. Flexibility, an adventurous, even sometimes risk-driven approach. Not everything will flourish, but everything will be amazing. So thank you very much. Lots of luck and all the backing you will have from my institution. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christian. That was great. Great talk. So, told you 3, 2, 1. So now we're getting ready. And I told you also that we are not alone because people here online, you have the Slido. So, or maybe you can also participate here if you are on Slido. I would like to see the interactivity and test it a little bit and be part of this journey. So if you're online, please tell me. We're going to start easy. It's going to get more complicated with the questions a little bit later on. But let's start with, where are you from? Right? Easy enough? Okay, where are you from? I'll leave you like 30 seconds to figure it out with Slido and etc. Please, in the room also, so that we have it a little bit more representativity. And then, for that one, I'm going to call the results on stage, just for that one. Because at the end of the day, we're going to, we want to tease you, so we're going to ask questions, and then at the end, we will debrief the results together. But for that one, I think it's nice that everybody knows, like, where are you from? So, yeah, Italy, you're rocking. Whoa. Can you give me more? I mean, I cannot do it at the same time, but Where is France? I'm French, by the way, in case you didn't notice. Oh, France, come on. Can you give me a little bit more? Come on. Sweden, Germany, yes. Spain, Hungary. Come on, guys, because we are already a little bit beyond schedule. Give it to me. See, this is coming. Northern Sweden, you have a very detailed answer. Athens, the edge of the Arctic, south of France. Yeah. Okay, this is great. Well, I know someone who is just coming back from the south of France, and I would like to give the floor to somebody very special, and I'm going to leave the wonderful cloud of the Earth, because it's really global right now. It's very European, that's great. We're going to leave this slide now, because we need to move on, and he's a serial entrepreneur of over 30 years experience in the cultural and creative sector and the industries. He was the director of the European Creative Business Network. He was the vice director of the European Capital of Culture in the Ruhr region. I mean, you all know him, of course. And on the slide presenting him, I think it always still says Bernd. That's Bernd Fesel. Bernd, please come on stage so that you can give your welcome word, big plans and ambition. Thank you and congratulations, of course.
Yeah. A warm welcome today to our EIT Culture and Creativity Moonshot. And my task is here a little bit to explain what kind of rocket are we launching this year. And if you look in our plan, it says we are building a pan-European partnership to be a learning and teal business organization to lead systemic changes for the cultural creative sectors. So what is this in real? What are we doing? And this means we are imagining, innovating and implementing novel solutions from our sector to help the green transition. Christian just said it. To be blunt, if we don't put creativity into all those processes, it won't work. That's our vision. That's the task we're up to. To do so, we create some 8 legal entities in 6 nations. And I'm traveling to those co-location centers. And I can tell you by now, I know that lawyers across different nations can be really creative. There are creative lawyers. So this is one of the great things and cross-innovations already happening now. We are building a digital participation platform. What does this mean? It means to overcome the fragmentation we know in our sector, to bring together the very small and the very big, the artist-driven and the tech-driven innovations, to bring together the non-profit and the profit innovations, to overcome the different languages we have there. So this digital participation platform will be ready next year. We are launching an investment club to incentivize other new investors and to also reframe our sector, not as a risky sector to invest, but the sector to invest in. And I'm really proud to have institutional investors here, private investors here, entrepreneurs who have created 5 unicorns in their life. So this is a statement for them being here. So please give those people here in the room a short applause. Yeah. We will launch an investor award to highlight those role models taking a lead in investment in the creative industries. We will launch a policy award to support policymakers in over 100 cities to take up better frameworks for creative industries to create growth and entrepreneurship for our sector, not with EIT funding, but with their own funding. Innovation in frameworks is a driver for our sector. And I know many from you have been fighting those fights in their local communities for many years, and I'm so happy that this kick can be available to support innovation in frameworks. We will launch the Next Renaissance initiative in September this year at the Ars Electronica. This is the case, when science and culture, when art and tech meet, we see novel worlds. And of course, this is not new. But again, it's happening now. It's happening while this kick is taking place. And you can say this serendipity, it's coincident. I think it is just the chance we have to grab to support those makers and give them a European platform, a cross-silo networking and visibility to really leverage their relevance and impact across sectors. And I'm so proud to say this has been launched already at the ZKM. We had a great successful event, and it will be also a launch tour through France, Hungary, Italy to show the next Renaissance over the coming years. We will also launch a call for next Renaissance ambassadors. We can't tell the story top-down. We need the makers to tell their own stories better. But you could also say we are just creating novel storytellers for the EIT community. People outside of our bubble, outside of the administration language, to reach out to citizens and, as Christian said, really to instigate behavioral change with customers and citizens. This is one of the uniquest capacity we can bring to the EIT and to Europe. So you see, we launch. Yes, this has a system. There is a rhythm, but don't be mistaken. Those launches are all sidekicks, if you allow me to say, because the real kick we are having this year is building the infrastructure. Our main task is to create operational and institutional sustainability to launch the kick. We are not fully operational, though we are so active. Still a small team, so please also bear with us. While we are launching the rocket, we need some time to really take off. So to take off this rocket is really an easy story. We can only launch this rocket together. It must be launched now, and we only can launch it now together. So this is an invitation to you all here out in the digital space, in the room. Please invite more stakeholders to the creative industries, to our kick, to build this innovation community together. It is not our moonshot as the EIT, it is ours as a sector. So please be invited to join our moonshot. Take this as a starting point to engage. Yeah, and welcome to the moonshot. You are invited, and with you, we will make it. And to start this now, please show our film and enjoy the day. Thanks for the attention.
Today, like never before, humankind is facing unforeseen challenges. Reality demands new solutions, and it takes new thinking to find them. We believe the front door to innovation is diversity. When diverse perspectives meet, new ideas come to life as solutions that will define the future vision of Europe. That's why we are here, to empower the next generation of innovators, to speed up creativity by supporting creative minds and connecting them with businesses, universities, investors, researchers, leaders, and the general society in radically new ways. Creativity is the connecting tissue across borders. Collaboration is the blood flowing through it. And we are the heart pumping, thriving within Europe, ideas that move the world forward. Creatives without borders. Innovation without limits.
Wow, that was quite a start. I think we're already set and ready to really take off now. And for this, I want to have also all of you there. So I want to make sure for the second question of Slido, just give you 30 seconds. You make it, you're ready to go. How do you feel about... Do we have a question for us on the slide? That would be great. How do you feel about using similar mechanism? No, that's not that one yet? I'm sorry for that. Can we have the question, the second one on stage, please? This is the optimistic one? Yeah. Okay, so how optimistic are you about the future of cultural and creative industries and sectors in Europe? How optimistic are you? And then we have a couple of answers ready. Yes, our time has finally come. This is the moment you can choose this one. Or I'm happy to see some positive signals, or intentions are great, but let's see how it goes. This is a little bit more skeptical one. It's the same old story. I can't believe anyone is going to pick that one. Don't disappoint me. We're going to see this at the end of the day. And I don't have an opinion about this. I want to see this also. Okay, I'll let you answer this question because we're going to move on to the next session. And for this, I'm going to call for our first panel in a second, a couple of speakers. But first of all, we will have an introductory keynote. And this keynote is going to be given to us from Martin Kern, the director of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. He worked at the European Commission for more than 15 years, I believe, at a variety of posts, mainly in the area of enlargement policy, especially also with financial assistance to support economic and social development programs. He's now part of the EIT management team. He's implementing the multi-annual strategy. And Martin, are you ready to go on stage? Yes, here you are. And then I will introduce the panel. Thank you.
It's not just the usual launch of a kick, but as we heard and seen several times today, it's apparently the start of something much bigger, journey to the moon and reaching for the stars. So we, first of all, like the level of ambition, but secondly, because it has been probably quite unlikely launch. As Christian Ehler mentioned earlier, the first attempts to create such a kick go back quite some time. And at the EIT, it started 2016-17, reflections on that. And indeed, there are a lot of opposition, a lot of skepticism to create a kick in this area. And that makes it, I think, the more excited that we could overcome all these different obstacles, skepticism, and do something completely new, a partnership and a kick in an area that many would have not thought makes a lot of sense. So that makes it even more fun to be here today and to launch EIT Culture and Creativity. So I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the European Commission, European Parliament, also Council, Member States for having put their trust in the EIT being able to deliver impact, to deliver value in this specific area. So we're excited to see that happening. That, of course, also means there's a lot of expectations, and I will ask Daria, Tataj, and Bernd Fesel and thank them on behalf of the whole new kick to deliver on that. And of course, that will be a tall order to create results and impact given all these expectations here. Before I pass to Johanna Leisner and very exciting panel, which will also include the European Commission, European Parliament, and representative of member states, so we can directly reflect on what they have created and what is happening now. I would just like to focus on 2 points. First of all, what is it the EIT model can offer to that sector? What can it offer to culture and creative sector? And then secondly, what are the expectations in return? What do we expect from the EIT governing board side, with our chairman having opened the event from this new kick? So what can we offer? First of all, we can offer a proven innovation model. EIT has created knowledge and innovation communities since 12 years and has done so successfully. We have 8 kicks, so certainly after 12 years and 8 kicks, there's a lot of lessons learned. There's a lot of best practices and a lot of opportunities for the new kick to start on the top, on the state of the art, and take that model and take the best of it. And what does that model offer? First of all, it offers entrepreneurship for the sector, much more entrepreneurial thinking in all the different sectors, subsectors, allowing to create more entrepreneurs, innovators of tomorrow. We've been doing this successfully in the EIT in the last 12 years, and there's no doubt EIT Culture and Creativity will achieve the same here. So it should be a huge boost in terms of creation of jobs, ventures, etc. Secondly, we'll know how to support companies, and I think that's especially relevant in this field at a very early stage. So we're talking about small entrepreneurs, startups, SMEs, which through the ecosystem, through the partnerships, through the whole EIT community can get the type of support that brings them to the next level. And that's really at the heart of our model. the entrepreneurs, give them whatever they need to take it further. That may be investments, investors, but it may also be connections, it may be clients, it may be partnerships, anything that we can offer to accelerate the innovation process. And thirdly, we can offer to solve specific challenges that the sector faces. We call that innovation projects. So EIT Culture and Creativity will have calls, will foster partnerships, will foster collaborations to help you to make breakthroughs and transform and disrupt the way business is done and take it to the future. All of that is organized around an ecosystem, and that's really what sets the EIT apart, because of course there are other projects that will train entrepreneurs, that will support startups, or that will focus on innovation projects. But in the EIT, it is a community ecosystem around it that does that continuously. And I think our track record shows that this is working. So not only do we have 3,500 organizations working together, we also have 70 hubs on the ground. So it's another unique feature that EIT is present on the ground in all of the member states and beyond. And we have supported over 5,000 ventures, and some of them have been so successful that they became unicorns and have huge market success. The total number of investments attracted by ventures of EIT last year stood at over 6 billion euros. So that's a big promise of what EIT can offer through EIT Culture and Creativity, but it doesn't end there, because EIT also is more than just the individual kicks. It also offers a lot of cross-cutting opportunities, and those multiply, I would even say exponentially, as the EIT community have grown. So you heard it several times, this is the 9th kick. So it can also join an ecosystem of other kicks and work together on cross-cutting issues. We have kicks in digital, we have kicks in climate, health, food, and those are of course huge opportunities for collaboration, because the creative sector can of course leverage innovation here as well. We also have initiatives on artificial intelligence, new European powerhouse, and our latest is a deep tech talent initiative where the whole community together will train 1 million talents. So coming to the expectations, and I'll be very brief, not to go over time. Expectations for the new kicks are, of course, to make use of those opportunities and, of course, to do that in a focused way. The biggest trap is probably to try to do everything everywhere a little bit, but obviously we would like to see a strategy and a kick that has focus on where is the biggest innovation potential. And that, of course, is now the moment for the community to talk about that and to find that focus. Secondly, the expectation is that the kick becomes financially sustainable, so that the portfolio of activities right from the beginning is designed in such a way that they can continue without EIT funding, meaning it's an investment mentality. That means also not just the mindset, but also the people in the kick and in the partnership that have that thinking. We have a program, just to mention it as well, on global outreach, which, for example, runs our hubs in Silicon Valley and Tel Aviv, with a new kick aiming at the moon. And despite all the countries represented, we will have to rename that, I guess, because global is a little bit too limited now. So we will go further. But also, you don't just get up one day and shoot a rocket to the moon, but you first put the technology in place. So you build the strategy, you put the team in place, you hire the astronauts, and then you train them. And then you, of course, pick your destination, and then you can take off. So that is the stage where the kick is now, and we look forward to the journey, have a successful one, and have a great event. And I pass to Johanna for the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, actually, you don't need a double microphone. It was a wonderful speech. Thank you so much to kick that with us. This is great. And now it's my time to introduce you I could also try with a second. With the panel, we promise you a couple of people from the European Parliament, from the European Commission, from the EIT, of course, to give a little bit more perspective, opportunities, what's coming up with the policies and directions. And it's my pleasure to introduce Johanna Leisner, scientific representative of Fraunhofer. She will be the chair of this panel. We have, again, Christian Ehler. This is great after the wonderful talk. Member of the European Parliament. No need to present him again. We will have Viviane Hoffmann. Please come and take a seat, each of you. Christian. Then we will have Viviane Hoffmann, Deputy Director General of the Commission's Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture, obviously. We have Valentina Superti, Director in the DG GROW, Unit G, I mean like double GROW, I would say, right? At the European Commission.
Well spotted.
Yes, and we have Teresa Risco, Secretary General of Innovation of the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, and also President of Center for the Technology Development and Innovation. So I would say, wonderful panel, enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome you, our partners, our colleagues, friends, and our distinguished guests on behalf of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft as coordinator to this Moonshot event. Before we dive into our panel discussion, where we want to set the scene and the context in which EIT culture and creativity is placed, please allow me a few personal words. It is now nearly 1 year ago that we have been receiving the relieving call of the director of the EIT, Mr. Kern, that we were winning the fierce competition after the hearing in Budapest. And since then, that was a long way to win this proposal, but since then, the work only has begun, as Bernd Fesel has mentioned. And we, as the coordinator, we have the opportunity and also the task to implement the legal and administrative requirements, which are often not always easy. But this success was only possible because I would like to thank all our partners, because they dedicated their time and their creativity and shared with us all their thoughts and commitments. So thank you very much for our wonderful team of more than 50 partners of the EIT Culture and Creativity. But as Bernd already said, we are facing a lot of work, and Europe also is facing a lot of challenges. And I'm here probably the bad person bringing not only good news. Europe is in the middle of really grand challenges. Besides the war in Ukraine, we have an energy crisis, we have loss of diversity, biodiversity, and we have demographic changes, destabilization of democracies. And above all, we are facing the biggest problem and challenge, climate change, the ongoing climate crisis. Italy is suffering right now from extreme rainfalls, flooding away buildings and soils which are needed for food production, and also people have been killed. In the past winter, Spain, France, Italy were facing, for the first time since we are recording weather, a winter drought. And that is a disaster, because that is the basis for our food production. Every contribution, how to mitigate and how to adapt to the changing climate, is urgently needed. And this is exactly the task we have to contribute with the EIT Culture and Creativity. We have to contribute that we are finding solutions how to get out of this climate crisis. Another big challenge, what was already mentioned by Mr. Ehler, is the speedy progress of artificial intelligence. Since in November 2022, the ChatGPT program was launched, the biggest competition race in the world has begun. This innovation will change dramatically every part of our life, to the good and to the bad. It will have a tremendous impact also on the cultural and creative industries. And it seems up to now that Europe is not the first in the row. AI, artificial intelligence needs data, big data. And that is exactly what Europe can contribute because we have the data. So these challenges, the greening and the answer of Europe to AI and machine learning and what EIT, culture and creativity, can contribute is what we want to explore now in this session. So I would like to pose now a first question to our distinguished guest, Mrs. Hofmann. Mrs. Hofmann, the new work plan for culture 23 to 26 has been adopted at the end of the last year. Can you please describe how the new work plan of culture is addressing the cultural and creative sectors, and how, in your view, we can expect that we, EIT Culture and Creativity, contribute to the ambitions?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Leisner, and dear Honorable Mr. Ehler, dear Mrs. Resco, dear Valentina, and dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here to present the new kick on the block. And as Mr. Ehler said before, it's really not a coincidence that this ninth kick is about cultural and creative sectors and industries. And I would like to thank you, Mr. Ehler, the European Parliament, and you personally for being a great supporter of the EIT and for having been so committed in putting industry, culture, creativity together in a dedicated ecosystem, and also for your role, obviously, in giving culture and creativity a dedicated place and budget in Horizon Europe. Now, regarding the work plan for culture 23-26, you know that this is a work plan that is adopted in view of our competencies by the Council of Ministers. And when you look at it, you will see that the first sentence of the Council resolution says, culture is an unlimited source of inspiration and innovation. So the first statement is there, source of inspiration and innovation. And it goes on with talking about a reflection of humanity and aesthetics, a fundamental part of our identities and communities. And of course, it mentions the growing importance of EU values as reflected by culture, including, of course, freedom of expression and creation, which are very important and will also, thank you very much, will also, of course, guide our work in the coming years. It also mentions, obviously, sustainable development, societal transformation, employment, the economy, and the role of culture in external relations. Now, I think we really have a momentum here to strategically support the potential of culture and creative sectors and industry. First of all, to become stronger and sustainable for themselves, but then also to play the fullest role possible in society, indeed in a moment of big societal transformation. Now, this change is urgently needed. This strategic integrated approach is urgently needed. And we think that the new kick can really be one of the game changers. We believe it can be one of the factors of change that will actually lead to a change of paradigm in this area. And when we look again at the work plan for culture, it has 4 strategic priorities. And first of all, it is about artists and cultural professionals because they need to be empowered, supported, and put in the best possible conditions. Then it is about culture for people. It's about participation. Cultural participation, I think this is of essence. I also think that the participation of people in culture, wherever they live, wherever they come from, whatever their age is, their social and economic conditions, I think it's so important that people can participate in culture because it will also help them have a say in designing the kind of world we want to live in and in the values that we want to live and represent. And the third strategic strand of the work plan for culture is culture for the planet, and it was mentioned a lot already this morning. And finally, the cultural dimension of external relations. Now, the EIT Culture and Creativity Kick is specifically mentioned also in this work plan, and it will make an impact, I'm sure. You have started already working as a kick, looking at strategic areas that you want to be active in, and also started working on cooperations with other kicks. So why is this kick such a good news for the sector? I think that thanks to the EIT model, that is the creation of ecosystems across Europe, broadly across Europe, not only the EU, also with the regional innovation scheme, it will put together the actors between now links are still missing. And they will work together in the knowledge triangle. So between enterprises, business, innovators, higher education institutions, I think you will have a very nice and appropriate environment that will be integrated and that will actually address many of the missing links and the gaps that still exist. So I think this gig is really great news for the sector. Challenges such as fragmentation, access to finance, and so on and so forth still exist, and there are new challenges like artificial intelligence and so on. But the innovative potential that is out there is so high, and hopes are now very, very high on the new kick to play its role to the fullest. When it comes to skills, I would just like to add a word, because I think that skills are hugely important. The preservation of traditional skills and crafts and new skills, and the combination of both. And I also think that the kick must be, and will be, I'm sure, instrumental in offering education, which is one of the sides of the knowledge triangle, which I'm sure will be a very robust one. And briefly, I will refer to two recent initiatives. One stems from the new European Innovation Agenda, which is the Deep Tech Talent Initiative, a very ambitious one, which says that by 2025, 1 million people in Europe should be trained in deep tech talents. Artificial intelligence is one of them. And this is led by the EIT. And I trust that also the new kick will help and contribute to reaching this ambitious goal. And the second one that I want to mention when it comes to education is the EIT Campus, which is also a new platform which puts together the education offer of all the kicks. And here again, the new kick will find its place, I'm sure. So all in all, maybe this new kick is the missing link that we were all expecting. It is fully in line with the spirit and the content of the EU work plan for culture. And I wish you all the luck in the world and all the success. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Hofmann. EIT Culture and Creativity, where we want to contribute. And this is about investment into skills, because that is exactly needed. And it is not only the new skills, but also the combination of new skills with the traditional skills. And that is the role of cultural heritage, what can be contributed, because we cannot survive in the future if we forget what we have been achieving in the past. And so the combination of traditional skills from the cultural heritage sector together with the new skills from artificial intelligence, 3D modeling, digital twins, the combination, I think, is the solution for the problems we are facing right now. Thank you. Let me go now to our second distinguished guest, Mrs. Superti. You are director in DG GROW. So GROW stands for growing. It is the European industry. You are dealing with small and medium enterprises. You are implementing the single market. And you are ensuring, that is also very, very important, that European industry is a strong competitor in the world. And here, I hope that the CCSI ecosystem and the cultural heritage sector are important drivers for innovation and growth. And I would like to ask you, what do you think, how can Europe support these cultural and creative industries and the cultural heritage sector, which is mainly formed by small and medium enterprises? And what do you expect from us, the EIT Culture and Creativity, to contribute to the aims of DG Growth? Please.
Good, well, first of all, good morning still to all of you, and including to the distinguished co-panelists and yourself. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you and try to explain what we in the Commission, but more particularly in DG Grow, which, as you mentioned, is meant to support overall growth in Europe through an enhanced industrial base, but also through supporting SMEs and boosting entrepreneurship. Now, the starting point is that, well, interestingly, just a few days before the pandemic appeared also in Europe, and that was March 2020, the Commission adopted a so-called industrial strategy meant precisely to explain what the Commission and overall the European institutions and overall Europe can do to foster a growing industrial base. And why I'm mentioning this? Because it's in that context, 2020, then there was an update in 2021 to take stock of the period of pandemic. The Commission for the first time identified as being the most relevant industrial ecosystems in Europe, 14 industrial ecosystems, and crucially, the culture and creative industries is one of those main 14 industrial ecosystems. This may seem trivial, but it's not, because it's about, I think, an important entry point, an important methodological entry point into the discussion. And what is this approach meant to bring? It's meant to bring hopefully a holistic approach across value chains, across sectors, linking precisely, that was mentioned before, networking, linking, building bridges between the big and the small across sectors. We know culture and creative industries, it's quite an heterogeneous sector made up of artists, but also crafters, but also cultural heritage, crucially media, but also fashion, design, textile to an extent. So it's a very diversified ecosystem, and it's important to try to have a holistic and, if possible, coherent approach throughout relevant issues. And now I come to the issues and what we are trying to do for you, for the ecosystem. We are working essentially on, I would say, 4 strands. The first one is precisely to try to help the many operators in this ecosystem to take the full benefits of the single market. So to try to, so it's the access to markets question, how by again helping making bridges, supporting partnerships, and working with clusters and so forth. First dimension. Second, also by having a methodology. So we are mapping the ecosystem, and we You are identifying bottlenecks to try to smoothen operations. So first element is a single market. Second element, of course, it's funding. That goes well beyond the DG GROW. It was mentioned before. It's about many instruments across the whole spectrum of the multi-annual financial framework. Horizon was mentioned. Cultural, the creative program, but also the media program. But then I want to mention our small, but still I hope significant worth project under the single market program. There we have some money. It's running since 2021, and we have supported 65. No, sorry, I'm mixing up with something else. No, it's 250 partnerships to date. And it's about, what is this about? This is about tailored mentoring schemes. So we are trying to help those who have not yet fully developed their entrepreneurial, in particular, skills. And we are putting together precisely these different souls of the ecosystem, and projects are still ongoing. So I'm making some publicity here. Calls are ongoing. Well, for you, calls are ongoing, and a new one will be launched before the end of the year. And we could secure some budget, which is not trivial in current days for the period starting 2024. So single market funding. Thirdly, quickly, regulatory powers. Of course, we can, as I always say, in the lightest and clearest way possible, try to put the framework conditions for business to operate across Europe. So we have some regulatory powers there. And last but not least, and there I will finish, and perhaps we can continue the conversation later, skills. We have formed, I hope successfully, also with you, with your help of the KIC, a skills partnership in 2022. So it was last year's, and the challenge is big. It's across ecosystems, but also particularly for yours. And it's big things that are at stake, because it's if I think it through, this is also about promoting values, European values, diversity, cultural heritage. So very, very important things. And we cannot make it if we don't have the right skills. So perhaps I stop it here and we continue later. Thank you
very much. And you mentioned again, I think the skills are really have a pivotal role, whether we are achieving our goals or not. And the biggest weakness also we have in Europe is the so-called valley of death. I mean, we are good in research, we have great ideas, but we are not very good in bringing it to the market and be really a strong competitor in the world. That leads me to our next panelist, Mrs. Riesco. You are responsible in Spain for innovation and knowledge transfer and the creation of tech-based companies. So we are exactly there. Right now, Spain will soon have the EU presidency. I would like to ask you, what do you think that Spain can contribute and support to support the cultural and creative industry by translating innovation schemes on member states level, and how we can overcome maybe this famous valley of death? Please, Mrs.
The idea of the creativity working together with technology is a must. And I think when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that it is very, very important that after years, when you have finished at least the first 5 years maybe of running this program, this project, we will see that there could be a kind of a new specimen, a new race in Europe that would be something in between a creator, an artist, and a technologist, a techie, yeah? So something that now are very far behind, yeah? But we have to look one to the other, and I think this is a must. And this is
from the general point of view. From the point of view of Spain, we have different opportunities in fields related with this. This is on the one hand, we will have a collocation center in Barcelona, where Barcelona is a very vibrant city in this field. Of course, many of you know, yeah. But there are happening things that, for example, I don't know, drama companies are working with techies in aspects like artificial intelligence, but in some other things, and they are building new things that can be used for many other things. I mean, of course, reaching the market, but also in the creativity part, but also in other markets that could be for inclusiveness of disabled people or things that could be used for to attract children, women, or elderly people to the technologies, for example. So I think the challenge is very big in this sense. On the other side, on the other part, I would like to express some small thing related with the role of science in this field. I think this is very interesting. I mean, if innovation has been very far away from arts or from creativity, I say, of course, considering creativity as of course as the art part, yeah, as the industry in this part, because without creativity there's no innovation, I have to say. But considering this, science, that is also a very creative part, is also very much in line with that. We have particular examples in Spain. I don't know if you know, there's a company that was started in last century. I mean, in the late 90s, that was called Next Limit. This was a company funded by two scientists, very experts in fluid mechanics, and they are doing all the simulations and all the films related with water. I say, I don't know, Lord of the Rings. I say many of these big recreation of everything related with water or with volcanoes and things like that need a lot of science for that. And there's an opportunity of business there. And these people from Next Limit now, they are working very much in metaverse, as you may imagine. So there are opportunities open, I say, in this idea. And what we are doing in the Spanish government is we are focusing on many of these aspects. We had actually a project call last year, for example, for audiovisual and video games, that we funded something like almost 100 companies for R&D related with this. But we also have a venture capital, a public venture capital, that we are co-funding with private capitals, and we are putting money in this type of businesses, startups that are very deep tech, but they are very creative at the same time, as the example that I mentioned. I say, I can put hundreds of examples, but don't let me talk too much, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mrs. Riesco. I think that you showed very well that that we need this kind of structured space where the different disciplines can meet. And why I was so thrilled about the EIT Culture and Creativity, why I was joining it, was that this could give us the room to meet between the cultural heritage sector, which is often called a little bit old-fashioned, with the creative and cultural industries and science. And I think here lies the real potential, which has not yet been unleashed so far. And I hope that in the next 15 years, we will be able to make really a dramatic contribution to advance this together. cultural heritage, the creativity of the past meets the creativity of today, and we are creating the creativity of tomorrow. So thank you again, and I will pose now my last question to Mr. Ehler. He had already designed a little bit what was behind. The European Parliament is always a strong driver for many things in Europe. So a big thank you also to the European Parliament. We can be very proud to have such a parliament in Europe, especially now in these very dramatic days. Mr. Ehler, can you explain again a little bit, was it difficult to convince your colleagues and to convince then the Commission, the EIT, that culture and creative sectors need a much higher place on the political agenda?
Given the time frame, I could either say no or yes, and it would be a relatively short discussion. I wouldn't so much refer to the marriage of, let's say, the past or the parliament. I think that the parliament had been instrumental because it is something, at best, which would be in a democracy an agora. It's a place where people simply can meet and exchange. And that is a privilege of the Parliament as an institution. It's more complex in the Commission and also to some extent complex in the Council. So you might say we are a little bit closer to the creative crowd because we are zoo. I mean, we are loose place of people who come together principally with different perceptions and so on, so on. We're not so binded by an institutional setting. But I don't want to reflect so much on that. I think what's important is that we do understand that the potential of this kick and the potential of the creative sector is to trigger a societal discussion. But not just a discussion, I mean, we discuss a lot in Europe, let's be honest. But to some extent also a way for society to get the means to develop further. And I think what is unique about creativity is that not just politicians, their means by budget or whatever, are enabling technologies or innovation. What's unique about creativity, and that somehow is why a parliament by nature is so sympathetic to that, I think it needs an interaction, a discussion, a kind of common development. And let's be honest, I mean, in our societies, the last innovation which had been sympathetic to the majority of the European population was colored TV. And from then on, we had practically a very, very critical perception about innovation and so. And I think we shouldn't blame people. It's simply that in a way we had been always creating dystopia. We had been very technocratic, we had been very abstract. And I think that creativity and the creative sector is the kind of binding, the glue in the society to translate innovation in a broader context. And if I may reflect a little bit the journey, I mean, I well remember that a few years ago, there had been a parliament delegation to Google, of all. And there was a new CEO of Google, interestingly Klump being the former chief of the DARPA, for the connoisseurs of you. Interesting connection. And practically she was showing us around at this Google site, which is a little bit between a concentration camp and something like a Robinson Club, and she was showing us around and showed us what innovation technologies she had been shutting down. There was this Google Egg car, the Google glasses. You remember the discussion in Europe about Google glasses and the skepticism and also, and I said to her, I mean, you the CTO. I mean, your job is not to shut down operations. And we were looking to the Google glasses, and I said, what had been the reason why the Google glasses failed? And she said, there are two reasons. We didn't found societal acceptance, and it looked like shit. And then I was a little bit puzzled, but I said, I mean, what are you going to do with that kind of understanding that your product failed? And she said, yeah, I mean, in terms of aesthetics, and she was looking to her shoes, and that these were Prada shoes, and out of a joke, she said, oh, we're going to buy Prada. And I said, why are you going to buy Prada? And said, yeah, because we have tons of money, we have all the technologies, but we are too dumb to translate our abilities in algorithms to the real world. So we need this creative translator for that. And that was the moment where, on the first hand, I got nervous, because I said, I mean, Google can buy the whole creative industry in Europe tomorrow. That's the biggest accumulation of financial means in the history of the economics of the 20th and 21st century. And secondly, I saw that this world-leading company would identify a technology they had been developing, failed because it needed two things. It needed more creativity and aesthetics, but also it needed a translation into societal acceptance. And all of a sudden you saw the miracle, to some extent, of Prada, because what Prada makes, and that is a little bit obscure by itself, it brings the male and women part of the population to buy to highest prices things they actually, literally would not need. And even make them walk in a way which is not good for their physics. And I mean, you can go on like that. So what shows is this, what the Google people had been discussing is the potential we never understood ourselves. We saw that as a little bit as fashion or artists or whatsoever. And we didn't understand that we have something in our hand which nobody in the world has it in its hand. Because we can transfer we can jump by creativity beyond cultures, beyond technology. We can jump into a societal contextuation which is beyond the boundaries of Europe. I mean, just imagine that a shopkeeper in China, a lady who comes from a village unknown 20 years ago, now living in a city not existing 20 years ago, has as its icon a Kelly bag. How does that work? I mean, we have cultural exchange, we have a lot of things, but it seems to be that this potential of creativity can make things an icon, even in a completely different cultural context, because it's sensitive enough to translate what had been an 18th century manufacturing technology from Hermès, which was meant for the French court, to something desirable in China for someone coming from a Confucian post-communistic context. So that shows what creativity can bring to the discussion we need about transforming our societies. Without that, it's not going to work. And I think the Parliament had been this, perhaps in the beginning, obscure place where different mindsets came together and looked at that and said, okay, we haven't understood the miracle so far, but we want to contribute. And I think that had been taken up by the Commission, by the Council, I think by the general political and societal perception in Europe. And now we have all in place. We are not talking about the future. We have the money, we have the structures, we have the ideas, and we have the ambition. So this is really a moonshot today.
Great. This is great. I have a question from the audience because I'm monitoring at the same time. You see, I have a couple of screens here monitoring everything. So, dear online audience, thank you for your questions. I have one for Valentina, I think, and then I will take one from the audience here. So, the question for Valentina is, it's a comment and a question. Going to the moon isn't financially sustainable. Why should the creative sector be subject to the pressure of profitability?
Oh my goodness.
Lucky you.
Of course, I've been chosen for the question. Well, at the end of the day, I think, creativity, innovation, which are so key and essential for our society, for our societal model as a European model. So they certainly are. At the same time, what we are, and particularly I have to say from a DG GROW in the European Commission perspective, what we are trying to say is that all that is good, all that is needed, but at some point in time there needs to be a translation into the market, and that's why we are so much insisting on this idea of which is more than an idea, which is an objective of which, by the way, is also the EIT and the KIC, specifically objective of boosting entrepreneurship, of translating innovative and creative ideas on the ground, because it's also in that way that there are hopefully tangible benefits that are created for citizens at large. So in that sense, I think that combining the more, if you want, intellectual only creative dimension with the entrepreneurial dimension is important for the society as a whole. So that's the way I would frame.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I think it shows very well. I like the translation into the market. I think also Dr. Ehler has been giving a couple of examples which were very great for that. Yes. Your microphone, can we hear Dr. Ehler, please?
May I just say, I mean, and Mr. Kern has to be very strong, the mandate for that endeavor is that things and a lot of operations won't be commercial. We have to strike a very delicate balance between arts and the non-commercial perspective. Also, the contribution can be a non-commercial one, because deconstruction of given behavioral settings is an artistic ambition. So deconstruction could be a contribution to transformation. So in a way, I think we should be smart enough, and it's a very delicate setting for funding and so and so. But I think the mandate for that EIT kick, and that's why Mr. Kern has to be so strong, and that also the Commission, is that it has a non-commercial part. And if we don't understand that and we want to just use creativity for commercialization, this is not going to work. It's not going to be accepted by creative, and that's not how the creative process works. I think that is clear, and that is not easy, and that's why it is such an ambitious undertaking we are starting today.
Yeah. I want to check in the audience who has a question here on location. Not only online, I want to be also a fine balance between online and offline. Anyone a question to our panelists? I will take one. Yes. Here, can we have the microphone? Here, 3 rows before the end of the room here. Yes, thank you very much. And please address your question, a short question, to the panelists of your choice, please.
Oui, bonjour, merci. I'm Jessica Fuller from Ireland, the Western Development Commission, 2 colleagues here. Thank you. In Ireland, one of our challenges, and you've mentioned it, is data. At the moment, we're finding it a challenge to put a market coverage, a market value on our creative industry, of which there's about 18 sectors. We know that the NACE framework has been a challenge in this, and the European Parliament has been addressing this. How might you consider maybe speeding up the recommendations from the report published in November to ensure that we can take account of the digital creative economy and exploit our IPR in a positive way going forward for our artists and enterprises? So how will we address data and the NACE framework, please?
That's great. Do you ask your question to which panelist?
Whoever wishes to answer it.
Okay, so who is the one answering that question?
I'm not sure what the question.
I don't want to talk permanently, so I'm looking to these distinguished ladies.
Or a very short answer of all of you, but very short.
I'm not sure the question is about data.
Yeah.
Data. Okay.
So if
well, but at the same time, you are quoting a report I'm not aware of, so perhaps this comes from the European Parliament. But what I can tell you, by the way, I'm quoting Commissioner Breton, who was present in Cannes only a few days ago, so I take little risk here. Well, first of all, in saying that you know that this commission, and with the help, of course, of the co-legislator of the Parliament and the Council, has been since the beginning of the mandate in 19 quite active on the data front in trying essentially to set up a framework to put forward guiding principles in order to have a discussion ordonnée about something that until recently was completely uncoordinated. So, and there are legislative initiatives which either have been concluded or are in the way, specifically for the media sector. So I'm not sure that completely answers the question, but perhaps partially. The idea is to come up soon with the launching of a so-called media data space. This is an exercise that has already, it's DigiConnect mainly in the lead, and this is an exercise that precisely is taking place in the context of the data governance, and it's about creating dedicated data spaces for certain sectors, for example, health, mobility, tourism, but also there will be one set up soon for the media sector, and the whole idea is to try to have a meaningful, first of all, mapping of existing data for a given sector, and then establish some guiding principle for the sharing of this data, which hopefully then would be for the use of all actors in the sector. Let's think of just briefly, sustainability challenge. How do you deal with that? It's also by knowing, by having the data, by projecting trends that you are better placed to do that. So. Yeah.
So thank you very much for your attention and for your patience. Thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. And I think we should join forces and all our creativity, not to fly to the moon, but to make our planet sustainable, because we are really in a dire situation. This planet has never been in such a dire situation with the ongoing climate crisis. So we are all have to contribute and make this happen, a sustainable planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. That was a brilliant panel. Thank you very much. And we're going to prepare for the next step already. So you're right, flying to the moon is not sustainable. So let us let us stick to here. But I mean, the idea of having a moon is really nice, lightening and creative and etc. So we're going to go on. And I think it was a great questions that we had at from the online audience, actually, because we want to show that culture and creativity can be a good business. So I know that there is a lot of tractation and problems between like the art and the commerce worlds, right? It's always a struggle. Because like, oh, if we do art, but it is like for a market, then it's not really art anymore. But at the same time, when you're an artist or in the cultural sector, you want to live out of it. So this is this delicate balance we want to find here and to see and to showcase with the next lightning talk a few stories to demonstrate that culture and creativity can be good for business and good for all. And for this, we have a great speaker. It is Anette Novak, and we were talking about Kern and Thierry Breton. Who was in Kern last week, by the way, here? Yeah, a couple of you. Yeah, I was there too. So Anette is the CEO of the Swedish Film Institute, and I think she prepared a little talk for us. Thank you so much, Anette. The stage is yours. Jingle.
Please have sound on my microphone? Yes, there we
Yes.
go. So the jingle, the sound is here, we can go. Excellent. So we are shooting for the moon. And since we are shooting for the moon, I think we need to start with the children. Because the children are actually the future entrepreneurs, the future CEOs, the future politicians. And I think most importantly, connecting back to what Johanna was just speaking about, they are the ones inheriting the world that we are building today. And I don't think anybody said the world child so far this day, so this is a perspective we need to have. They are not passive recipients of what we give them. They are already very active agents. And I think also by studying what they do, their actions, their choices, their preferences, we have a crystal ball to gaze into the future. And what's even better, it's totally free. My name is Anette Novak, as was already pointed out. I'm the CEO, when I'm not here, I'm the CEO of the Swedish Film Institute, which supports Swedish film, which is on one hand art, and on the other hand, business. I'm also on the interim supervisory board of this very young kick sibling of ours. But I'm a trained journalist, and as an editor for more than 25 years in the news media business in different managerial positions, I've also lived in this dynamic between the freedom of expression and profit margins, ROIs. And this was at a time, I would say, when news media industry, it dawned on them that they were the typewriter industry, prone to extinction if they didn't start innovating. And I will draw on these experiences in this address, but also on my experiences as CEO from RISE Interactive or Interactive Institute, which the institute was called. It was an ICT and Design Research Institute, experimental and applied design, and focused actually on doing exactly what a lot of people have been talking about today. But here we have also a 15-year experience, or more than that, successfully, I would say, putting culture and creativity at the core of any development project. Now, this is the question that I believe a lot of us are asking ourselves at the moment. How many have been thinking this lately? Please. But Johanna was onto it. Huh? It's a very relevant question, making us rather frustrated. I mean, we have raging war in Europe. Who would have thought that would happen? We have a looming climate catastrophe. We have raising inequalities, polarization, eroding democracy. Where do we start? It's easy to feel almost apathy, like hopelessness, and we really must dodge that, and we must do something about this. We must start designing for action instead. We've arrived, I would say, in a point in history where almost all earlier assumptions of how we built our societies, the economy, decision-making processes, structures, lifestyles, they're wrong. They've proven wrong. And this is very hard to take in. The foundation of most of the structures and systems that we built, they were laid down in an era where short-term, vertical, and very simplistic solutions were enough. During this old industrial paradigm, we promoted things like efficiency, standardization, and this approach is not adapted to the current rising and increasing complexity. It ignores interrelations between disciplines, sectors, political portfolios, cultures, and individuals and individual preferences. This doesn't support human species' understanding of being an integral part of a planetary ecosystem that doesn't really care about quarterly reports. So the approach is broken. We must just acknowledge that. And we are at the end of the industrial paradigm. So what we have before us, and that I invite the entire KIC family and beyond, of course, to participate in, is building the new paradigm. It's an era which will allow us to overcome our obsession with market-induced, short-term satisfaction of basic urges, and instead rediscover much deeper needs. Our deeper needs of profound, purposeful, caring way of being humans, of being together, of being community, in harmony with each other and with nature, and hopefully for eternity. So, are we doing this? Well, it requires radical transformation of the way we live, from the organization of markets to the definition of our practices and rituals. It requires deep questioning of the logics that we today non-critically and very often subconsciously accept and follow. And when I say radical, I do mean radical. It's not mitigating risks anymore. It's nurturing risk, embracing risk. It's not investing in consequence analysis. It's embracing the weird and the unexpected. Putting culture at the center, which many speakers so far already referred to, it's about letting the artist's perspective and design process serve us as guidance. And through this approach, we will build competence in accepting and handling the unknown. Culture is not adding something fun at the end, color and shape that will make the brick and mortar world a little bit more digestible. Art has always held the power of opening up minds towards new ways of feeling, thinking, and acting previously considered impossible. Surrealist René Magritte's famous painting of a stone in the sky, you've all seen it. But if you heard his speeches or read about them, you will understand that he used this image as a way of changing our perception of reality. By adding the unimaginable, a stone that flies, new spaces for interaction, new economies, new industries can be born. And if we can think it, somebody will be able to build it. So will this happen automatically? Or do we need to redesign how we meet, how we interact, how we plan, how we decide and how we do business? Perhaps now new in-between spaces that do not belong to specific ministries, departments, organizations, or any other part of the old silo structure. A place to test new relationships and to form new collaborations. RISE Interactive, which I had the honor of leading for some years, about 5 years ago, and Dr. Ambra Trotto and her fabulous team of thinkers and doers created a magic space in Umeå in the north of Sweden. The pink is not just a beautiful building. It was also the town's nightclub, so it already had a link to everyone in that town. That's good. A lot of people met there. But it was designed as an experimental venue where one doesn't have to behave according to rules of one's organization. At the Pink, we learned that by offering new perspectives, norms, rules for interaction, participants get inspired, empathetic, they get open, and they grow. And individuals, both individuals, I would say, and teams. So today we're convinced of the need of these new spaces for cultivating transformative skills and for designing transformation, inclusive and sustainable. We will need it now with AI, because AI revolution will have to make us re-exercise our brains. It will be totally new ways, and the space and time between idea and execution has just diminished to almost zero. So creativity will come immediately, and it will be in a new partnership between human and machine. And in these spaces, creative actors can fuel the experimentation around challenges that people propose, that we know are there. No dead co-working spaces. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a place where grown-ups can engage in what the researchers called serious play. In the beginning of this address, I promised you some concrete examples, or the moderator promised some concrete examples, and I will deliver upon that. At Interactive Institute, interaction design researchers lived as they learned. During its active decades, this institute built an innovation process on a quadrohelix model with culture as the fourth element. Instead of the question, how will we ever manage to create incentives for people to save energy in the households, which is a way we could talk about it, leading to linear thinking, force them, close down their access, raise the tariffs, all the ways we would do it in the old way. You can instead pose the probing question, could sustainability be beautiful? And what then? Could we actually believe and trust humans to tweak their behavior if they found it aesthetic? Adding aesthetics led the researchers in the Eskilstuna studio south of Stockholm to patent the power-aware chord, a chord where electricity is visualized like running water, triggering our imprint to close it, saving energy. Now, this was as early as 2005. And here comes the point with this. It takes a long time. It became a patent, the patent was sold, but there was a huge period of time between the idea, the execution of the first prototype, and the marketing of this. So my point here also, of course, that businessizing, so to speak, can be done, but there has to be some space and time. We cannot look at the quarterly economy. The patent is sold, as I said, with up to 12% of household energy spending emanating from appliances on standby. This is truly an important example of innovations addressing grand challenges. And the second case study is gathered from the news media industry. I was editor-in-chief of a town in the northern Sweden, not far from the land of the midnight sun, the polar circle, And when I arrived there, everybody said to me, "What are you doing here? We don't have anything here for you. You seem to be rather, peppy girl from Stockholm, go back to where you came from. There's nothing here for you." And I was just amazed at everything I found. There was clean air, clean water, pristine ski tracks right outside my house. Very kind people. Nobody was bullying anybody in traffic. It was just a fantastic place to live. What was missing? What do you think was missing? Entertainment. Esteem. Somebody said esteem. Absolutely. Self-esteem. Because they had seen since the 70s how their town was shrinking. How people left for the university cities. There was like a very strange feeling of we are not as good as all the other people in Brussels or in Stockholm or wherever. So we just felt that we can do something. We had 90% almost of the population in our channels, so we started building. We started building something to alter this. Okay, sorry. So this is the town square at the time. So you can see you can almost guess the name of it. The name of this town square is the Square of Opportunities. Okay, and I'm not joking. It's actually the name. But as a white canvas, you can fill it with stuff. And we did. So we added, for instance, the year when we turned 100 as News Media House, we added a Christmas market to create pride. There was reindeers and live music and bonfires, and people could cross that square and feel, we have a nice Christmas market. There's something happening in my town. And we started building like that, and we did lots of different things. On December 13 in Sweden, we celebrate the Santa Lucia Catholic saint. In the big cathedral building by the river, everybody's at candlelight, and you have this procession of white-dressed girls coming in singing. Everybody's there, so it's like huge arena. That year, we had problems with racism. It hasn't gone away, I think, since, but we did work on it because we colored the girls' robes in the diversity of the rainbow colors when they came into the church. Now, this, of course, could have been written as an op-ed in the news media business magazine saying, oh, we don't like racism, we should all respect diversity. What do you think would affect people's minds and hearts? The text in the traditional business, or this new innovation, doing the op-ed in the analog space together with people? I can tell you, the people there was a lot of hugging and a lot of crying. This was strong. This was news media industry in its innovation phase. So starting to wrapping this up, is there any money in this? No, not at all. If you count in short-term subscriptions, which was what a news media house usually counts, there was no gains. But in the long-term indirect profits, massive amounts of money. We eventually regained 30% that we had lost in advertising revenue, lost during the semi-monopolist fat cat years of non-innovation. But what was even more important, the ripples on the water that this created. And now I'm not creating causality here, but this was in between 2009 and 2012. And today, this town, I gave you a sneak peek, it's the hometown of Northvolt. Now, could that have happened before this other phase? I don't know. A lot of people I know up there says, we started something. That's all still rolling. It's a snowball. Today, Northvolt has taken a lead, and Skellefteå has taken a lead on the green transition in Sweden. It's a municipality that, as I said, went on constant decline since the 70s, turned it around, and has, during the last 3-year period, has the biggest increase in 33 years. 15,000 new employments planned, 10,000 new homes being built as we speak. Investment in culture has also been an integral part, I would say, of this success, because you don't get the engineers to come to Northvolt if their kids cannot learn violin. You see, it all adds up. So here we have invested also in Sarah, the cultural house, named after the writer Sara Lidman, one of the tallest wooden structures in Europe, 20 floors, 80 meters high, housing regional theater, cultural exhibition spaces, city library, and arts museum. So, is there money in this? Well, I would say definitely there is. And I would like to bring with you 3 points before wrapping this up. Culture and creativity is about everyone's right to express themselves. If we unleash the power of all the unheard, that's a tremendous force that we will be able to create wonders with. Opening up new ways of thinking, new ways of doing. And it is, somebody said it before, it is a must-have. It's not nice to have. It's something that we really have to see as core. It's not surfeit, it must come first. And it mustn't be the lowest. And we've heard acknowledging the political voices here of cultural as a center already, but there's a lot of politicians out there that still believe that cultural is the lowest in the political hierarchy, that it comes at the end, and that the prestige and the budget is the smallest of them all. So that's something we still have to work on. And finally, we will have to include AI in everything we do now. It has to be responsible, of course, but if we want to reverse innovation, we need to work together, man and machine, refining. And when the idea, I would say, when AI does the creativity, man's role or human's role changed to refining, curating, contextualizing, and applying it at the right place. So this is the new team. And that means that success might look different than we are used to. And that doesn't make it less a success. So welcome to the new paradigm. It will be up to you, to us, to fill this with content. Thank you for listening. And in the voice of the language of Europeans' only indigenous population, I will say thank you on Sami, Ritu.
Thanks a lot, Anette. This is really great. I love the presentation. So it's great also to bridge to the next one, because we're going to talk about money in the next panel. But I have a short question on Slido. I saw you like Slido, right? So how do you feel about using similar mechanism to support both the profit and non-profit ventures in our sector? How do you feel about that? Again, using similar mechanism to support both the profit and non-profit. I'm not going to go into the different answers because you see certainly them on your Slido. So think about it just a couple of seconds. And I'm going to go and move forward to present you the next panel. We're going to talk about cash, money. I mean, in French, when you say let's talk cash, it means let's talk directly, straightforward, honestly, bang, without any political stuff. So we're going to talk cash, we're going to talk about money. And I'd like to introduce you to the participants on this panel. I will finish with the chair, but I will start with the panelists. So let me introduce you, first of all, to someone who has been listed in the top 50 women in technology by Forbes magazines. And she's part of the high-level roundtable for the new European powerhouse set up by the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to accelerate the EU Green Deal. And of course, it is Francesca Bria, the president of the Italian National Innovation Fund, and also a board member of the Italian public media company RAI. So Francesca, please, if you want to come on stage and take the first seat here. And we're going to go on. Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm honored. It's a long time I wanted to meet you, so I'm glad to be on this. Yes, this is great. We also have Sir Ian Livingstone, and he's one of the founding fathers of the UK games industry. I would say more than the UK, actually. He launched also Dungeons and Dragons, and that's, yes, Sir Ian Livingstone. Can you please come on stage? It's my first Sir on stage, so I'm really impressed. Thank you very much to be this with us. We have also somebody to make money work for positive change. So certainly somebody we need, Michael van Straten. Please come on stage. And this is really good. And then I think we also have David Gonzalez Martin, the head of Sustainable Finance and Advisory Solutions at the European Investment Fund. Yes, David Gonzalez, please. Welcome. And I promise you to introduce her. Of course, it is your host for the next panel, and it is Mejaben Patrick. She has over 25 years experience working in finance and investment at the leadership level, and has raised multi-million euro funds from public and private sector to invest in creative companies. So I think if somebody is going to chair that, it's her. So Mejaben, please come on stage, and I'll lead you the stage to all of you. Thank you, and enjoy the conversation.
Hello?
Yes, that sounds better.
Great. Thank
Yes.
you, AC. As you heard from previous speakers, the creative and culture sector is a powerful force that shapes our society, challenges our perceptions, and enriches our lives. However, we need to do much more than just recognize this sector value. We must put our money where our mouth is. Creative and culture sector is a commercial success too. As you heard from Dr. Christian Ehler and other panelists earlier, it is contributing to our economy in many ways. However, in spite of huge investment by the European Commission and other institutions, we still see public funding reducing at national level, as a lot of government have to cut back because of austerity, because of the crisis that we are facing as communities. Private investment in creative and culture sector is also often not there, as many private investors perceive it as a high risk and low return compared to other sectors. Despite these challenges, the sector has a lot of potential. There are promising signs of innovation and growth in the sector, with new forms of funding and business models emerging alongside digital technologies and platforms enabling new forms of creativity and collaboration and facilitating access to new audiences and new markets. But in order to fully realize the potential of this sector, there's a need for much greater investment and support from both private and public sector. By investing in creative and culture sector and putting our money where our mouth is, we can help to ensure that these industries continue to thrive and contribute to Europe's growth and competitiveness. Investing in the creative sector is vital. It's good business, but it is also vital for our society's development and enrichment. By recognizing, celebrating, and investing in the visionaries who are shaping this sector, we can inspire others to follow in their footsteps and contribute to a brighter future. Talking of visionaries, we just have the right panel for you today. They are visionaries in their own fields. In the next 40 minutes, we look at how and why the creative and culture sector still faces significant challenges when it comes to investment, raising finance, and how we can tackle those challenges. So let's talk money. I've got an amazing panel sitting here. You all heard their sort of credentials and their backgrounds. So without further ado, I'm going to kick off with my first question. Surrey and Livingston, thank you very much for being here. I am going to come to you first and ask, you've been a crucial pioneer in the gaming industry, and your experience with Hero Capital has given you a unique perspective on investing in creative businesses. How do you see creative and culture sector fitting into the current economic landscape, and what do investors need to know about this industry?
I don't think this is working. Yes,
Yes.
We're working now. Thank you, and it's great to be here and representing the UK in our now isolated island, but still very much part of Europe, of course. The games industry in particular, I think, is the poster child for the marriage of art and science. Don't really quite understand the size or the cultural, social, or economic impact of the industry. It's a $250 billion a year industry. Some 3 billion people play it. I think games help define us of who we are as human beings. And I would argue it's one of the most forward-facing industries for the post-COVID digital economy. First off, it's intellectual property creating, where ideas become content or services, and that IP has value. And I'll talk about the value proposition further on in my little introduction here. We develop regionally, like in the UK, they're not all developed in London. In fact, very few are. So that ticks all leveling up in the UK, wish to be a country which has which is backed in its entirety. It's green, it's high tech, it's high skills, and it's an instant export story. 90% of the revenue comes from overseas immediately because the games are both created digitally and consumed digitally, often free at the point of delivery and upselling content over time as games have become a digital service. And therefore, the risk profile is completely changed from when they were consumed and purchased and made physically. And here comes my microphone for my next song. Games, the risk profile has changed significantly. When I was chairman of IDOS in the 90s, we developed Lara Croft Tomb Raider, and of course that was sold in a box, a premium price, at retail, managing the distribution channel, getting past the gatekeepers of distribution to end up in a shop on a shelf which may or may not be there over time before the consumers got tired of it and went away. Or if the game wasn't as good as we were hoping it was going to be, it'd come back in the form of returns, impacting on profitability, of course, and cash flows. But now, games as a service, free at the point of delivery, upselling content, the risk profile has changed dramatically. But the games industry is a phenomenal success story in the UK, but investing has always been a problem. We've always over-delivered in content creation, been always underserved by capital. Investors and makers have a hard time understanding each other's worlds. And so whilst we create intellectual property that has value, too often that value has been recognized in the UK by US and Chinese companies who've seen greater value and acquired that IP early on. So it's on our part as investors to help the content creators to move further up the value chain of IP ownership before realizing that value. Of course, inward investment from Chinese and American companies is good for the economy at local level and secures jobs. But if the profit is banked overseas, that doesn't help the content creators themselves. So I think it's really important that people understand the opportunity in games and the creative industries, in that the content that's created is no more risky than any other industry, especially in the games industry, which is a booming market and economy. And albeit our assets are intangible, we can scale at an enormous rate. These are supply-led content propositions that have real possibility to scale to global audiences. And whilst the games industry has had insufficient backing from government and from public and private money, games, I would say, are also a contextual hub for learning. If people can just part their prejudice against one or two titles that children shouldn't be playing anyway and are 18 rated for a reason, like films are, and think cognitively what's happening when a child is playing a game, they are problem solving. They cannot get through a game without problem solving. They're learning intuitively. They're learning that failure is success, work in progress. They're not punished for getting it wrong. They learn at different speeds and they can win over time. Whereas an examination is a moment in time where you're judged. If you get the question right, you're able. If you're not, you're less able. So games allow you to encourage risk-taking and that entrepreneurial mindset. In games like Minecraft, are effectively digital Lego. Childs are learning by doing. They understand that applying the heat of a furnace to silica sand, they can make glass, and they can take that glass and put it in their environments, and they won't forget that. And yet the traditional broadcast model of education means that children get very bored just listening. They want agency of learning by doing. I think that's really key point about games. And effectively learning, a game like Roller Coaster Tycoon is a management simulation, designing a theme park, populating with rides, the economy, the staffing levels, and the profitability, all done, which the child can then tweak until ultimately they become winners. And a pilot learned to fly. That's simulation software. That is a game without the scoring. But I think all the creative industries are misunderstood. It's not just fluffy industries run by lovers. These are real industries. And creativity is not just about the creative industries. It's so important that arts is not a nice to have in education. It shouldn't be an either or.
Leonardo da Vinci, the best painter ever in the world, was also an art engineer and a mathematician. So all the best scientists and engineers also have a good artistic hobby. Usually you'll find that is a thing. So we must make sure that there's a good arts education as well as a technical and digital creativity. So hopefully the children of tomorrow, if you give them the right digital making skills, get them to code or understand how code works, a good arts education, an entrepreneurial mindset, knowing that failure is okay, you learn from that. Perhaps they might become job makers rather than just job seekers. And I think the creative education that is so intrinsic to diverse thinking in children for tomorrow, in a world that's been transformed by technology, is absolutely essential. So I know I've wandered off the topic a little bit, but I think this is all interlaced with skills, talent, and investment and entrepreneurial mindset for the future.
Thank you very much, Sarian. I think that was a really good example of the sort of the creativity of game sector and other related sector, not just in terms of its entertainment value, its scalability, its export value, but also its learning value. So that's a really, really good start to this conversation. And there are so many reasons to invest in this sector, not just one or two. It is a full package. So thank you very much for that. Michelle, I'm going to come to you next. Triodos Bank is known for investing in socially and environmentally responsible businesses. How do you see the culture and creative sector aligning with Triodos Bank's value? And how do you think you are leading the way in showing the investors, other investors, how impact and commercial return can go hand in hand?
Yes, thanks. Do you hear me clearly? Okay. Well, first you said it already, because Triodos is well known for his environmental, it's a niche bank, green niche bank. What is less known is that we have 3 pillars since the start 40 years ago. It's not only about environment, it's about social and culture from the start 40 years ago. Because we think, you know, if we live in a clean, beautiful, clean planet with people that are socially included, but without culture, it would not be a prosperous society. This is, from the beginning, a strong belief and a kind of systemic approach. So what we do is very different from Sir Ian Livingstone, because we are in the financing business, which is low risk, low margin. It's very different from investment or venture capital, which is high risk, high margin. But still, we are able to finance the financial sector in the 5 countries, and we are in Europe mainly, but also in the UK, which is part of Europe. And we finance quite a lot of small and medium-sized projects, both content providers as venues where they can offer their. We work a lot with the European Investment Fund, because they help us also with their guarantee schemes, where it is sometimes too risky to go without their backing. And we are successful. And the credit losses we make are really reasonable and not higher than in other sectors. I think it's important also. We have 40 years of experience with that. We do, besides financing, we're also very supportive of the sector by being in events like this, by offering our knowledge in terms of financial management, and because most of the time the clients we see are very poorly educated in financial topics, and so we help them to improve their financial knowledge, because sometimes it's a pity to see that they are very strong in creativity and then they go bankrupt because of poor financial management. And maybe a last thing, what we see over the last years post-COVID is that the big actors are back, and most of them are back to their pre-COVID level in terms of activity turnover. But we see in France, in Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany, I heard, and in the UK, I heard, we see that the medium players, the SMEs of the sector are still suffering. Most of them are still at maybe 50% of the pre-COVID activity level. and really, really suffering. So maybe there's also something to do there for the new culture and creativity you're starting.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I think that was a real good demonstration of the extent to which creative sector can be an economic success and can make money for investors, and that your work in this sector shows that it's not any more risky than other business, and that coming from a banker goes a long way to convince other investors that stop using the excuse that it is a risky sector. It is not. If a bank can invest in it, so can private sector and VCs as well. And also another demonstration that there are different types of finance. It's not just VC money. There's loans that companies can get. So thank you very much for that. I'm saving best for the last, Francesca. So I'm going to go to David. David, the European Investment Fund has an important role in shaping funding policies across Europe. What role do you see the creative and culture sector playing in Europe's economic growth? You heard the statistics and you heard where the sector is going. How can the EIF support the growth and development of these industries?
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the invitation to this great event. Look, actually, the culture and creative sector has become very close to the heart of the EIF, and I would say even part of the DNA in a number of dimensions. I mean, I think what Michelle presented a bit earlier on our partnership in respect of providing guarantees and therefore somehow making Triodos even more comfortable in this sector is a very clear illustration of that. I mean, we've already been almost for 7 years providing guarantees to banks across Europe so that they can in turn lend to the different entrepreneurs and SMEs that were in need of access to finance. And the impact of that of this intervention was very clear since the beginning, was to, first of all, to increase the volumes of financing flowing into the sector. And the EIF is particularly vigilant that once we enter into an agreement with one bank, to make sure that the money really flows according to time. And second, also to improve the terms and the conditions that these entrepreneurs, I would say, need to comply with as part of this financing. For example, in respect of collateral, in respect of access to personal collateral, so somehow a bit improving the ecosystem. This was for us a very first step in this kind of a spirit of, I would say, of working together, bridging between the policy and the sector per se, and the financial sector. Now, a key aspect of what the EIF does in respect of this sector is not reach out to the entrepreneurs or to the SMEs directly, but always partners with banks which are very well positioned in each market to reach by themselves these entrepreneurs. And this is very important because this also creates a bit of a feeling of ownership of the banks. So they start seeing the sector as theirs. They start looking for their customers in the sector. They build their relationship with the sector. So at the end, the EIF plays a bit of a backstage role, but somehow things are happening. Ecosystem building, very much linked to the mission of the EIT and to many of the previous messages that have been passed here about working together. Now, look, in the last years, what we realized together with the European Commission, who is our partner, our partner for these interventions, is that we had to go a bit further in terms of our financing. And while I would say the support to lending to small entrepreneurs and SMEs was already, I would say, mainstreamed and working pretty well, we saw how the market was really thirsty and in need of this financing because the money was just flowing out. We saw the need to further complement the support that we would give to this sector by also providing equity investments and such. So the EIF, you may know, is the largest limited partner, the largest investor in Europe in VC funds. And we said, look, this mechanism also needs to be applied to the culture and the creative sector. So this is why, together with the Commission, we have launched a specific equity product for the culture and creative sector, which is also supported by the Creative Europe program. It's called, the commercial name we call Media Invest. And look, this is still a very exciting adventure that we are now deploying, which basically consists in providing equity investments also via fund managers, because we don't reach directly ourselves to the final recipients, to the SMEs, to the ventures. We always do it via fund managers who take ownership then of the deployment. And these fund managers will in turn take equity stakes in different SMEs or companies, and they could also finance actually audiovisual projects directly themselves, typically audiovisual production projects and also distribution. Now, this is a very innovative field where we have entered, and where we also see a very positive traction. Thanks to this instrument, we will be able to crowd in private investors into the sector, very much on the spirit of what we're trying to somehow convey here. And precisely what these instruments have proved, particularly the guarantee one and the equity one, we already start seeing even in these early stages, is that we are able to support all the different types of business models, including the most innovative one. I mean, so obviously the more traditional one, which was about financing on an SME, small SME, which may be in need of a concrete investment or a concrete working capital loan, but also in this gap financing, as is typically referred to in the individual sector, this type of investments. This is particularly relevant at this time, where there's so much world demand about audiovisual works of very high quality. And it's very much linked also to what Seria Livingstone was doing earlier. It's also very important to create an ecosystem of private investors alongside the EIF and hopefully alone as well, investing into the sector to avoid that intellectual property rights go out of the EU by a financier, which is de facto just hiring, I would say, professionals in Europe and building very successful works, but at the end don't provide necessarily the return to us, and the APRs are gone from the first minute. And this is very much our obsession this day, together with the Commission, to make Media Invest successful, to create traction in the market of fund managers willing to move into this sector and invest alongside the EIF. Precisely to create a very healthy environment where everybody can choose and opt for, I would say, financing in market terms, or, I mean, somebody else may want to still go for work for hire schemes, but at least there's the choice also to create IPRs and have them remaining in European ground.
Great. Thank you very much, David. That is really great to hear the role that EIF is playing in diversifying and actually increasing the number of gatekeepers, fund managers for the creative and culture entrepreneurs to access. So that's really, really good. And also the role that EIF funding plays in leveraging private investor. I think that is really crucial. So hopefully long may it continue, and really good to see that you are seeing more demand for creative and cultural investment and more fund managers actually coming into this field from other sectors as well. So that's really encouraging to know. We'll have more questions for the panel, but I'm going to go to Francesca, last but not least. Francesca, as president of the Italian National Innovation Fund, you have experience in supporting innovative startups in a variety of industries, not just creative and culture sector. So how do you see the culture and creative in entrepreneurs and companies contributing to innovation? And what challenges do you see these industries face when seeking investment and support from public funds like yourself?
Thank you so much. This should be working.
It
yes,
is.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. So let me first say maybe a couple of things on why I think this initiative is so timely and so important. And I think we have been hearing this throughout the day in every single panel. So I think the EIT Culture and Creativity, the new kick you are creating, is absolutely crucial because since we live in this spoily crisis that everybody was talking about, I think is also a crisis of imagination. And I think we have to be pretty ambitious to see what actually the combination of arts, technology, and science can do to address those big challenges. It was already said, but I want to to keep reinforcing this, because I've been working more than 20 years in the technology sector. And I think we are at a point, if you look at artificial intelligence development, but also smart cities, application, and all the effort to tackle the biggest human man-made crisis, which is climate change, where we actually need to be super innovative about what we are doing with the deployment of all these technologies. And that's where I think the task of the creative industry today, it's somehow new. I mean, I see the combination of arts and science becoming a form of laboratory for what society of the future we are building. And I don't think this is just a rhetorical statement. That's why, and I'm in the board of the new European Bauhaus created by Ursula von der Leyen, I think that's why the president in this mandate was very bold and very clear to say Europe has this big challenge, which is the Green Deal. We want to become climate neutral by 2050, but this is not going to happen without a cultural movement. So she really put it out to the creative people, planner, architects, designer, artists, to work with technology and the technologies and scientists to invent the solutions for the future of the world. Now, I think this is something we have to take absolutely seriously, and we have to say, okay, what shall we do to get there? And the second recommendation I wanted to give you, because I think you have been talking about, oh my God, it took us so much in almost like legal imagination. You said we had to innovate the legal boundaries and the institutional boundaries of what's possible here. Just build on what is already working in Europe. Like, do not invent anything, because actually you have the privilege of connecting the dots in a way that was never done before. Think about Creative Europe, think about the new European Bauhaus, think about programs like STARTS, Science and Technology and the Arts. I've been part of this board since the very beginning when it was created. Now, let's use internally in the European Commission data and be very clever about saying what has been working, what it didn't work, and what we should be strengthening at this point. And really build on top of these initiatives which are making the difference. I will get to money in a little bit, but I want to stress this factor because Europe is pioneering this field. I mean, this is the European innovation model. We don't have to look farther. Technical humanism and culture and creativity at the service of society. It's what Europe can do. We are not going to see it from China and the US. I think we're going to see it in Europe. So if we want to show that Europe has its own innovation model, and it is about all these values, and it is about bringing culture and creativity at the very core. Now we have the possibility to do it, and it has to be an effort that it's not only public, it's not only private, it's going to be public, private, and hybrid. Because by the way, I mean, I think before it was mentioned like brands like Prada and their foundations. Now, in Europe, you have so many amazing foundations which are innovating at the boundaries of science, technology, the arts, and the ecology. You have the museums, you have the public media broadcasters, you have the national galleries. This is where the real innovation is coming from. How do we strengthen this? And getting to funding, I'm a VC fund, yes? And I think the limitation about VC in this field was already somehow mentioned. So we have 5 billion euros, and we are a venture capital fund. It's state-backed, and we are investing in all different industries in many different ways, from funding funds of funds. So we invest in other funds, which I think it could be pretty interesting in this field, maybe coupling the European Innovation Council with our national funds, which could be like the creation of a specific fund of funds in this space. I think this could be interesting. We have a lot of experience in funding accelerators. maybe some form of acceleration could be working in this space, but I think we have to try it out. And we have some examples at the moment in Europe. I think if you create the right partnership structure and then you get the right, talent and foundations and investors on board, some form of acceleration could work. Something like a tech transfer fund maybe could work. In Italy, we have 5 tech transfer hubs. It works super well, I think, in the deep tech sector where, technology is leading us where we are not really sure. So we have to experiment and we have to, somehow get it faster into the market. And Europe is leading the way in deep tech innovation, and the EIT knows very well. We are seeing we invest €1 and we get €3 back. So there is return on investment because the Commission was very clear that this has to be sustainable, right? You want to have a sustainable business model. So this may be a form of tech transfer, could also work in this space. But I think you should be trying a lot of different things. So my suggestion is a real mix of public, private, and hybrid funding, maybe like the European Innovation Council is doing. We need blending funding, some subsidies and some VC investment, some accelerators. And overall, I just also want to say, before finishing my intervention, a couple of things. It was said before also here, we have a fantastic public sector innovation. We have to recognize that. So there is a lot of creativity, culture, and the arts, which needs absolutely strong public funding. I mean, we cannot retreat as a public sector. We need to have solid long-term investment for the creative and cultural industry and the arts. And this is very important also in terms of indirect funding. For example, artist residencies, those are important. We also want hubs, spaces where artists can live, cheap housing. This is going to be a question. Like I'm working in Berlin on a massive new project where the problem is, what do we do to make affordable housing for creative people? Because otherwise they cannot produce, they cannot invent. So there is a lot of different funding. And it was said, I think, before, that this sector is becoming highly concentrated. So we are seeing the usual, in the digital economy, we are seeing a strong monopoly. Yeah, we are seeing monopolies coming up in digital platforms, but also in gaming and also in the culture and creative sector. What do we do? Because we need to fund the small initiatives as well. I mean, we need the innovators on board, the SMEs, the creatives, the artists. We need to give them money and them ability to, to keep producing in Europe as well. And so this is our big challenge we're having with VC. So we have to tackle this problem of monopolization, and we have to try to be diverse and to give the money where the money is needed, on the ground. And I think this is our big challenge. And just to address this, we can do something also with regulation, because all of you has been talking about it. I'm actually also in the board of the national broadcast television in Italy, and I'm seeing this happening all the time. We're giving massive funding to the media sector. It was also the keynote before. I mean, now basically the competitors of our public media broadcasters are the big platforms like Netflix, like the big, digital big tech, basically. And this is happening also on artificial intelligence, and I'm closing. If we want to innovate the space of intellectual property, let's think massively ambitious, because, there is an initiative of artists at the moment which are demanding the rights to opt out their artworks for being, scanned and appropriated by artificial intelligence engines to build the language, the big, large language models. There are 4 billion artworks because of artists. There is already platform and networks which are opting out. So instead of making it so easier to the big tech and giving away data and IPs so that they can be even more successful, why don't we use this data and artificial intelligence to give it back to the creators, to the small initiative, to the artists that can create the innovation of the future? So we need to massively innovate copyright, and we need to massively innovate regulation in this field. So this is a big task we have.
Thank you very much, Francesca. There are quite a few challenges you have highlighted. And of course, they are different ways in which we can address some of those challenges. I'm going to pick up on some of those that are in context of this panel. So I think you're, just summarizing your intervention here, addressing the crisis of imagination is an important challenge. Taking up the role of culture to, contribute to the challenges of the Green Deal is a massive thing. Not reinventing the wheel, of course, and really, developing Europe's own innovation model and really flying the flag for that. All of those are really, really important fields. I think you touched on the hybrid model of funding, and there is not just one way of funding, there are various ways of funding. So I'm going to open up the panel to discussion around the financing of creative and culture sector, which is sort of the key thing here. And I think there are various ways in creative and culture sector can be financed. We have, we were talking earlier, we have VC funding, equity, private equity, venture capital. So that sort of funding, of course, we have loans, we have guarantees, we have foundations, philanthropic. So my question to the panel is it lack of imagination in how we fund the creative sector that is the issue, or is it lack of finance, or is it lack of political will? So where does the real challenge lies in increasing the financing to the sector? So I'm going to go to you, Ian, first. You've got the mic in front of you. If I can do that, and then I'll go to other panelists.
Okay. I think it's a misunderstanding or not really realizing the upside opportunity of the creative industries is the biggest problem for the investment community. If you can think back to 1975, I'm sure none of you were born in those days, but since when I launched a company called Games Workshop, as we mentioned, we launched Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer, and the retail chain I sold out in 1991. It's now worth £3 billion on the London Stock Exchange. The value of all that comes from Warhammer. But when we started off, I was a young creative entrepreneur, started with my old school friend, and all we had was our passion, our enthusiasm for these games. So we go into the bank manager and say, hey, we've got this great game. It's a role-playing game where you act as roles of heroes and wizards and clerics and go on these fantastic journeys of mind, killing monsters and finding treasure. Can you lend us £10,000, please? And he looked at us rather like a dog watching television, had no understanding whatsoever what we were talking about, and asked us to leave. So we were quite angry about that, because why wouldn't he give us the money? The fact is we were not investor ready. So whilst we might blame the investment community for not investing, we as creatives also have to show how we have a good business sense behind the ideas that we create. We didn't have any cash flows, investment decks, or anything other than our own. So now, fast forward nearly 50 years, I'm on the other side of the fence as an investor, as a general partner of Hero Capital, and we fund video games companies, technologies, connected wellness and fitness, esports, new technologies in games and associated industries. And what I look for now is a team is the number one thing. Now, if I was investing in a games company, of course, when people ask what's the three most important things about a game, I will say gameplay, technology, and graphics important, but they play a supporting role. But ultimately, it comes down to the team, looking for a senior leadership team with an amazing creative person on an equal footing with the person who's going to run that business, and they can enable each other to be successful. It's often the case in games and other creative industries that they have a cottage industry mentality where the creative wants to own everything and doesn't see that they're doing stuff they shouldn't do or couldn't do well. So there's no point in them doing the VAT returns, buying the furniture, putting the toilet rolls in place. They should be concentrating on making their creative content and services. So, and then the business director helps to scale the business and raise the funding. So it's having that great business and creative endeavor linked. And beyond that, there's technology. There's a whole raft of things I look in. But as Hero, we invest seed capital because really there's a real problem in getting beyond the friends and family stage. And we do Series A and Series B, 1 to 3 million, 3 to 7 million. to help scale companies, because they get to that trough where it's too soon for private equity. The banks that haven't been interested traditionally, I know they are now with Triodos and the like, but it's helping scale businesses that are always undercapitalized and have to sell out their IP too soon. So we want to move them further up the value chain.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ian. And it's great to have your experience of sitting on both sides of the fence and now really bringing that experience of a struggling and passionate entrepreneur to the investor community. Michelle, can I ask you, do you share some of the things that Ian has outlined in terms of when a creative founder or entrepreneur come to you, what do you think are the challenges? Why would you not invest? What will be the issues that they need to address to be investable?
Well, certainly the topic about having sufficient financial knowledge together, or mostly not in the same person. We have a team. It's certainly one thing I can share. I see they struggle most with their top line, I think. I think there is sufficient money flowing around. There is sufficient variety in risk and margin with all the funds we just discussed. I see more a challenge in terms of generating sufficiently top line, and can be initiatives like having an international marketplace where content providers and buyers of this provider could meet and sell their commercial activity, education, training, helping them in the green transition, all these kind of things.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Michelle. And I've been given a sign for last 5 minutes, so I'm going to come to David and Francesca. David, there is, as Michelle said, there's not lack of money, and EIF is the proof that you are putting a lot of money out there for the creative and culture sector. What can we as a KIC and the sector do to actually, get more of the share of that money that it so richly deserves as a sector?
I'll be pretty brief. One of the things we've always believed since we came into this sector is that we should also provide expertise alongside the financing. This is something that in the case of EIF, because our position in the market, we typically do with financial intermediaries. Some of them don't need it because they already know a lot of the sector, but the majority do need it. And they're actually quite keen on engaging with the financing and put it in the sector once they understand it better. So for that, we have partnered with experts of the sector, and we have been able to provide this training, and it was very much customized to the needs of the FI, to the market. Some FIs wanted to expand their knowledge because they knew about this. Some of them started from scratch. We were able to do that. And in the field of guarantees, it proved to be quite useful, I have to say. It was quite welcome and praised. And we plan to do the same on the equity field, and this is particularly relevant because if we want to crowd in investors, this means that the fund managers need to be able to speak about the sector also very knowledgeably to their investors, and their investors themselves also may need some sort of expertise in order to engage into that sector. So that's also, in my view, an additional ingredient to this cocktail in addition to what has been said.
Great. Thank you very much. And Francesca, 10-second reflection on that, and then I will ask a question to all of the panel for 20 seconds. So 10-second reflection.
Reflection on that, yes, absolutely. I think if you transfer some skills to the investors themselves, then they are much better into understanding where to put the money in the right place, but also the bet for the future. I think we're all here saying that, sometimes we are talking about some innovation which has huge potential that's not fully recognized by the investors. So I think this is going to be critical, and we see multidisciplinary teams all the time. Like we have the same problem, even when we invest in deep science, deep technology, med tech, space technology, we need to have people that understand the field very well in the investment team. Otherwise, we won't be able to do the right investment. And for me, if I can give like another example of something that you can do, I think you have these hubs, yes? So you could start, maybe you're already doing that, but this accelerator, maybe type of funding, you can build virtual vertical VC funds for each creative sector whenever you have something mature that can scale. And so you kind of decouple the pure artists or the pure scientists, which they're doing their work and they're maybe not even the right people to be leading, to be the founder of a startup, with expertise in the commercial sector, and then, make that fly into the market. So we have done something similar. And finally, co-commission with foundations, because this would be something so impactful. You maybe only need 100K, 200,000, not so much, to co-commission multidisciplinary intervention that will have a huge impact that foundations are already funding. In big museums, big art gallery, all these spaces, co-commission, the European Commission co-commissioning, and have the match funding. The match funding could work also as a way to amplify the impact of what's already there in the framework maybe of the new European powerhouse, that I will really hope this KIC will pick it up and make it, their also ambition. Thank you.
So one last question to all of you. Finally, imagine you're all in 2030. And just in one sentence, what does a thriving culture and creative sector looks like to you for Europe? David, I'm going to start with you.
Look, for me, it would mean that the ecosystem is already grown. We have a number of fund managers already operating in the sector, and therefore we can be quite selective in helping those that would not fundraise otherwise, because fundraising in this sector for equity investments is already, I would say, a mainstream, event.
Great. Thank you. Michelle?
Oh, I would say we would have a few dozens of unicorns, but also a very striving SMEs that can provide their services, their creativity throughout Europe.
Great, thank you. Ian?
I'm hoping that everybody, not just in this room, but the whole world over, will be playing games together online and not flying together, but... But of course, creativity is a new idea that has value, and we always used to expect value just to be economic. So I think for the creative sector, it's important that value is acknowledged being cultural, social, ecological, sustainable, diverse, and green, and just see the real value of creativity is amazing.
Great, thank you. Francesca.
Yeah, so I think it would be great if the KIC manages to create this archipelago of laboratories that are prototyping tangible. Even beyond the prototype, let's say, creating tangible solutions to the big challenges we're facing, tangible that you can touch, both in terms of their impact in society and also the actual return they can generate. And then I think better jobs, because we have a lot of precarization in the culture and creative sector. Yeah. So we want to see better salaries for the cultural workers and for the artists. Great. And that's where my also call to redistributing the value, which can be also in terms of artificial intelligence and data, back to the creators. Great. And I think it will be very important for Europe to keep the diversity and to keep this sector made in Europe with, the kind of values we want to see in society.
Thank you very much. I think that sums up our panel. We will have some questions, but Europe in 2030 with creative sector backing it looks great. So over to you, AC.
Thank you. We have a question from the online audience again. Yes, and thanks to the panelists, of course. But hold on. They're not done yet. We have a question which is actually for who is the first one? So that one. I'm hearing about audiovisual, gaming, and film industries all pair easily with technological development. What about body-based arts like dance, theater, etc.? Who would like to take it first? Francesca, you look like motivated.
Absolutely. No, exactly. Obviously, arts, we are in Belgium, no? It is the place of dance. Here, theater and dance, and they've been funding throughout. That's what I said at the very beginning, that we shouldn't forget that we need stable, long-term investment into the cultural sector, including, of course, theater, dance, music, and so on. And those are the key to creativity. There is no artificial intelligence there. It's not going to be reproduced in that kind of creativity. So we need to invest there instead of all in the technology, and then bringing it together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think I can
Yes, I mean, only if you have the urgent need to say something. Otherwise, I would ask a second question, you know. The second question? Okay, good. I mean, just checking the audience. Does anybody have an urgent question? Otherwise, I use my privilege as a host, you know, to ask again and again. No one? I mean, yes, here, please. Audience first.
Thank you very much.
Short question and gladly to one specific panelist, please.
I don't know who would exactly want to answer this, but it's in line with the previous. Hello, I'm Caroline Hammers from the Eindhoven University of Technology. So we're talking also about things that have a concrete business model. But with societal challenges, there's not one owner. There's a whole group of things that has, so there's not someone that has responsibility there. So how do you see that as kind of the link to the financial? Because this is what I'm really struggling with. Who in the end is bringing out, if you want to go beyond just funding and subsidies, how could the creative sector tap in there?
Yeah.
When we have a joint responsibility.
I think I can start with that, but then go over to the panel. I think, you're absolutely right. And it sort of links with the last question, as you said. I think, there has to be a model, and there is a model actually, where long-term patient impact capital can actually address those challenges, which are societal challenges. And if there's support for the private sector to come alongside, then it does absolutely come alongside. So patient capital, impact capital matched with private sector can address those big societal challenge where the business model may not be clear, but the impact is clear. And there are a lot of private investors who invest for impact as well as for economic return. So anybody wants to add from the panel? No? We can go to the next question.
Yeah, okay. Shall we do a last question? We are picking which one would we want to have.
Oh God, there's so many
Oh,
questions.
you know what? We can ask the audience what they want. Do you want something about mental health, or do you want something about creative investment? Let me you vote first. Mental health, anyone? Oh my God. Okay, creative investment. Okay, creative investment. Let's go. What about getting creative with investment schemes and try alternative crowdsourced financing models? I think it is something that also relates to this, or distributed ownership as pre-market validation. That's a good one, yeah.
Who wants to take that?
Yes, exactly.
That was precisely what I was advocating for. I think the crowdfunding is not even new. We know it works. We know what works and how it works. So it can be, I think, scaled and reproduced. Of course, we have all the kind of technological innovation in marketplaces like NFTs and blockchain platforms that also we know what works, but also the limitations of that. But I think definitely we have to be trained as investors in recognizing the value of those kind of disruptive technologies and redistributing value. I think it's key, in particular, when we talk about IP and how IP is changing. Let's think about the metaverse. Let's think about gaming, online gaming, like cryptocurrencies, or even when we are talking about artificial intelligence rights. Imagine that artists are asking for, the right to publicity rights if their voice is used by artificial intelligence on platform for reproducing that. So we need creativity in all possible forms. And in fact, maybe this is a call to this panel that we need creative investors if we want to, match the challenge of these sectors scaling up to for returning both value and impact to society. So yes, I think great question.
Yes, that's also what I thought. So thanks for the great choice to the audience. This is cool. It was a common asked question. So yes, I think that's all for now, unless someone has another urgent question. Otherwise, everybody's smelling like the delicious perfume for the lunch, I know, but we're not done yet. Don't move. Are you good? Are you done too? Yes? Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
very
to all of
to
you.
the panel. Thank you.
No, don't move. Don't move, everyone. You can move. You may move, but they may not yet. So, 2 or 3 things. First of all, in case you want to, well, I'm not sure you want to tweet or Insta or something, but there are actually tags, shoot for the moon, tag shoot for the moon with capitals of everyone, and tag EIT Culture Creativity. I already started. I made a picture of this. So in case you want to have a look at my ISTA Catalyst agency, you will see it. You can retweet if you like, but hey, be creative and do your own stuff. So next, we want to have a group picture. And we want to make it differently, of course, right? We want to be creative, so you know how we're going to do it. So first of all, you look to the stars here, right? So now, where is the photographer? Ah! So, there you want to have a look too. Yeah. Maybe I should go down this stage to make sure. So, let's go and shoot for the moon. So, let's have a look at this photographer. Everybody there. Do they have to greet and say hello? Something like that? Yeah, that's great. Let's do this. Smile. Hello and smile. I don't want to be in your way. Great. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. We're good? Good. Now, don't move. No. We're not finished yet. We are finishing 5 minutes before schedule. I don't know how we made that. This is crazy. But, hold on. We have a lunch break until 2:25. 2:20. We are 5 minutes early. 2:20, everybody back in the room. 2:25, everybody sitting. And then we can move on to the next one, okay? So, bon appétit. See you later. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So, look at this. This is a great gallery. The best places in the theater are very often on the loge and etc. So, the food will be served downstairs and upstairs. I want to go upstairs. This is great. Enjoy your food and see you later. Thank you.